Still no word on the whereabouts of your son's fiancée. Sorry, Jonah.
It's all my fault. I drove Spider-Man away.
He was the only one who could have stopped Octavius.
Yes. Spider-Man was a hero. I just couldn't see it. He was a thief! A criminal! He stole my suit! He's a menace to the entire city! I want that wall-crawling arachnid prosecuted! I want him strung up by his web! I want Spider-Man!
Do you expect me to talk?
Of Do You Expect Us to Talk? I'm Becca, and as always, joined by my fellow Spidey co-hosts Chris and Dave. How are you both, gentlemen?
Good evening, folks.
I'm currently brushing up on Shakespeare, thank you very much, just to impress the
We're
ladies.
reading poetry, have we?
Yes, because that gets the ladies nowadays, so I hear.
Oh, their knickers fall off if you read it like
Especially when you randomly read it desperately when it's like, you know, when she's like just got engaged and shit. It's
yeah, but I've read some poetry. Oh, right.
Keats, Longfellow, anything like that. The girls go wild.
There's some logical fallacies in all of that, to be honest, but we'll get to it. Spider-Man 2.
Yes, can't wait.
First film grossed in the 800 millions. As is often the case with like the best sequel in a franchise, this is the lowest grossing of the three.
Which is odd, really, because I mean,
Prisoner of Azkaban's like the lowest Harry Potter grosser as well. You know, it's that sort of thing.
It's odd because I remember when this came out, it was a summer where there seemed to be nothing on. This was like the main, like the only big Hollywood mainstream film out. I mean, they had a few
Van
releases.
Helsing, Chris.
Well, yeah, they just had like a series of just like of films that no one gave a shit about. I mean, I think maybe iRobot was this year. I think
it was.
Oh gosh, yeah, that was a film.
But I think that was late end of August. But we had like King Arthur, which didn't sort of.
Which
was that 2004? I always thought it was the following year. I think you're right, actually. King Arthur is well. Firstly, you got the world's most boring voice in it with Clive Warren, but secondly, the film itself is really dull. It's really, really boring. I watched it for a podcast a couple of years ago. I watched several like Arthurian type films, including the Guy Ritchie version, and it was just a miserable time, all of it. Excalibur had a sort of campy charm to it, but that was about it. They were all pretty shit, to be fair.
It's such a shame because it's like that kind of story, you know. I think it deserves to have like a big screen epic, film made about it. But like the ones that we've had have just been boring.
Well, I mean, I can't think of a worse mix of man and material.
No.
Than Guy Ritchie to that type of film. I mean, obviously, I could name some really silly comedy directors or something, but of the people you'd expect. Okay, this year you had, looking at the highest grossing films of 2004, Spider-Man was third, the aforementioned Prisoner of Azkaban was second, Shrek 2 won the year, which tells you something.
That tells you something, yeah. There was an interesting year for movies.
Some of the films below Spider-Man 2, Incredibles, good film, but again, it had the Pixar name on it, but it was an original property, so that appearing in fourth tells you something. Fifth was The Passion of the Christ.
Oh gosh, yeah, that was the big Easter release, wasn't it?
which is just basically 2 hours of Jesus getting the ever-living shit kicked out of him.
You know the story.
And nothing more than that.
Yeah,
It's
you
like,
got Ocean's 12, that summer film.
Ocean's 12 was this year. The Day After Tomorrow, which was Roland Emmerich, crap film, but there you go.
Collateral, which is that was alright, but I'm not sure
That
if
was
that
a
was
decent
summer.
film.
No, I'm just reading. I'm going through the highest grossing list.
Most grossing
first.
films of that
So
year.
you got The Day After Tomorrow. In 7th place is Meet the Fockers. That tells you something.
Oh god.
8th, Wolfgang Petersen's Troy, which was such a disappointment because I loved the Iliad at school.
I don't remember seeing that.
It's Brad Pitt as Achilles, and I got a feeling Agamemnon is like Brian Cox or something. I
Yeah.
saw it. It's the first film that introduced me to Diane Kruger because she plays Helen of Troy.
Ah.
But the film takes real liberties with the story and just misses the point entirely. I don't know if you could do the Iliad in a film, but if you could, this ain't the way to do it.
You'd have to break it up, wouldn't you? I think.
Eric Bana played Hector, and that was almost perfect casting because whenever I pictured him, he was very Eric Bana-like, but the rest of it was a bit iffy. 9 was Shark Tale, which was a very, very disappointing Will Smith, Robert De Niro animation DreamWorks. And then, as Chris mentioned, Ocean's 12. What else did we get this year?
You got
The Aviator, Ray, Jamie Foxx film.
That was brilliant.
Million
Walking
Dollar
Tall,
Baby.
Wimbledon.
Oh Jesus.
Wimbledon was terrible. But yeah, of the big grossing films, you're getting to the sort of films that wouldn't make the top 10 in most years quite quickly, which tells you it's a bit of an underperforming year. And I'm not quite sure why.
Man of Fire as well is probably another notable film to note. And Shaun of the Dead, of course.
Shaun of the Dead was 2004, but again, that was like, that was quite a small little indie film, really. They grew in grosses as they went on, but Shaun of the Dead was not a massive grosser. It was successful.
And the first Saw film.
Yeah.
That was.
I think I
First
saw
one's
that.
all right.
That
I
was
saw that at the cinema,
October.
and then it kind of sharply declined.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because I do remember Apropos of Nothing being out somewhere in 2006 and talking to someone who was looking forward to seeing Saw 3, and they were every year, so that would be right. Again, in isolation, I tend to think Saw is 2003, but by logic, it can't be. A couple of sort of slightly artier films from this year. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind,
That's a great film.
which I walked out of and threw up immediately. I don't
Oh,
know.
no.
It had some deeply emotional effect on me.
Oh bless you,
I
Dave.
didn't cry, but I came up and throw up, and I'm
Yeah,
never
no,
quite
that's
sure why.
not nice, is it?
Sideways, a little Artie Alexander Payne film of
Oh, about the vineyards.
Paul Giamatti, who we'll see in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and Thomas
Hayden Church was in next week.
Hayden
Yeah,
Church.
who actually will be in this next week's
Yeah,
film.
they go sort of on a wine tasting Napa Valley sort of
Fucking Merlot.
fucking
Yeah,
Merlot.
fucking
They complain about Merlot, which is blasphemy in my opinion.
It makes you want to buy more wine. I think that's the wine.
They were into Pinot Noir instead. A couple of misfires from
Philistines, I
this
don't
year. Sky Captain of the World of Tomorrow. That might be the disappointment of the year because the
That
art
film
of
looked
it,
great, but it just terrible.
it was boring.
It looked amazing.
I don't think, judging by conversations I remember with people, I don't think I'd walked out of a film until about 2008. But my memory as Sky Captain is walking out of it, but I don't think I did. I must have just completely tuned out. I wouldn't be there telling people 4 years later I've just walked out of a film for the first time if I'd walked out of Sky Captain. But in my memory, it's like I didn't make it through it because it was so shit. It was just an artistic it was
dull, basically.
It was an art direction project. That's all it was, really. A couple of other notable smaller films from this year. Fahrenheit 9/11 was this year. That was Michael Moore's most
That
successful.
was a very interesting film.
Finding Neverland, which Johnny Depp and
Kate Winslet.
yeah, Motorcycle Diaries. The Alfie remake. That was
bad.
That was terrible.
I remember going to see that because I
Yeah,
was studying in America at the time, and I was like, "Why did we see this film?"
It was tonally confused as well because it's quite dark in places.
It was. This is it. I remember this happy-go-lucky.
Kill Bill 2 as well.
Kill Bill 2 came out around April. Yeah. It kept being delayed. We talked about this a year or two ago, but that kept being delayed because he just couldn't get the score as he wanted it. Because it was supposed to come out in February originally. So, yeah, coming back to the point that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 took about, without looking at the first one again, I think it took circa 50 million less than the first one, which is a surprise because it's no spoiler to say at this stage that this is the best of the three. Do any of us disagree with that?
Of the Raimi films?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just the Raimi films.
Yeah, definitely.
We can argue about best ever later on. I saw it on
Evil Dead.
best of the Raimi Spider-Man films. Evil Dead 2 is his best film.
Evil Dead 2. That's what I'm going to say.
Evil Dead 2 is his best film. Although we mentioned last week that you'd see work this week that would evoke stuff that he did in the Evil Dead films. If you ever go and watch the extras on the Evil Dead films, it tells you about all the sort of like homemade cheap-ass ways he had to do to get dolly shots and things like that. In the first film, a woman's raped by a tree.
But how it's done, literally, because he's on. Well, it's very anything really, like necessity kind of breeds success. Really, it's like if you've got to do it, especially if you're on a limited budget, like he was. Obviously not with these films, but that's very often the way to do it. And I think. We'll get there, but it's like the transformation scene, and you can kind of tell how he, puts various shots together. Watching
this and being reminded of Evil Dead films, which I've not seen for years. In brief, Evil Dead was about 1981. Evil Dead 2 was something like 87. I might have that year wrong, but if it's wrong, it's not far wrong. And the funny thing is, it's sort of a sequel and a remake at the same time, in that the first half of it almost remakes the first film. But it's sort of in the same continuity. It's really odd. But Bruce Campbell. The second one is the sweet spot, bit like this series, in that the first one is more of a horror film. Evil Dead 2 balances comedy and horror better than any other film I can think of, with the exception of An American Werewolf in London, where it's full-on horror film, full-on a comedy film, and doesn't sacrifice either of those things, whereas there are wryly comic moments in horror films. Sometimes you would probably say the Freddy films, Nightmare on Elm Street. And then you got the other end of the scale with things like Shaun of the Dead, where it's a comedy. It's got horrific moments in it, but it is a comedy. Evil Dead 2 is completely in this sweet spot of a batshit crazy film with like camera work to match, acting to match, and just shot making to match. And thinking about those things in the last few days have really made me think that actually Sam Raimi might be perfect for the Doctor Strange sequel.
Can't wait.
Making that. By the time he gets to the Medieval Dead, Army of Darkness, firstly, the film had two different endings. And I know people that saw the two different endings depending on where they saw it. Which is apocryphal, because I'm sure one was the alternate sort of home video take, but I have people swear blind, because he ends up going back in time and fighting zombies in the past. And there's one version of the film where it ends with him back in the present and like having a bit of a showdown in the supermarket he works in. And there's another one, the actual take I saw was where he has to take this potion and he takes a drop for every century he wants to sleep, and he miscounts the drops. Bruce Campbell's character Ash in this series is just having a very, very bad day. He wakes up at the end having missed the end of the world. And,
it's legendary.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant, but the film itself isn't brilliant. The Army of Darkness is too comedic, although there are funny little moments in it. So Spider-Man 2 shows that, and I would say it shows it in two very obvious places. The birth of Doc Ock, or certainly the hospital scene.
Oh, yeah.
That is pure Sam Raimi. And in the very first trailer I saw to the film, it showed Spider-Man being dragged along the floor with his webs attached to the elevated train.
Oh, gosh,
and just about to get his balance to get up on his feet and stuff. And my first thought was, Sam Raimi's finally arrived in this series.
Yeah, you can kind of tell.
Do you know what I mean? It's very comic book in that there are shots in the film where you get background and foreground both in perfect focus. You don't tend to see that outside of comic book panels normally, although I have seen it since. Colour palette's a little lighter than the last film, right the way down to his suit is a slightly lighter shade of red, and Mary Jane's hair is full on ginger in this rather than
she's
dark
actually
red.
She dyed it herself rather than wearing a wig like she did last time.
Yeah, I'm not making fun of her at all. Just saying it's
a good look. It's a good look.
Distinctively lighter palette in it.
It's brighter, isn't it? It's more colourful.
And without going into what I think of the film first, I suppose the only other thing I'd want to say is sort of an opening impression of this whole project was when the film started and we got the title sequence with all the sort of artwork of scenes from the first film. I just thought this film's really been made with some love. Contrast that with when I went in to see Spider-Man 3 and it was a load of lazy fucking pictures of the cast. So this is the one that feels like Sam Raimi's passion project. And it's the one where he's been entrusted with doing it properly.
It's like the most Sam Raimi Spider-Man film, if that makes sense, compared to the first and the third one.
It really is. What do you guys think in terms of memories of the film, going to see it, all that kind of shit?
Chris?
I was going to say Becca first, but...
I'll put you on the spot. You heard a lot from me, so you can go next.
Ah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, at that time, I think I liked it. But then there wasn't a lot going out. There wasn't a lot around at the time. This
was a disappointing year.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like. I mean, it seems to be sort of banded around as like one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, and I've always kind of went along with it with almost like sort of a faint sort of I can understand it without really believing it myself. And I don't know, I think now, as time's gone on, would you really class it as like one of the greatest, as the best adaptations of a comic book movie? I'm not entirely sure, though it is probably the better of the Raimi films, by far. So I'm a bit unsure. It is certainly better. However, it's the problems that I had with the first film are still there, and they're still there in spades, but it's better handled here, if that makes any sense. But well, I'll talk about more as we get into it. But yeah, I think in terms of my thoughts, I think that's really where I am with it. It's like it's a flawed trilogy in my opinion, but this is the better one. This is one of the better, more well crafted, more fully rounded. You know what I mean? It's more coherent as a piece. But again, I think the problems with it are like how Peter Parker's handled and just things like that. But what do you guys think?
I pretty much agree, sadly. I sort of remember, I think this is probably one of the high points from 2004, as you mentioned, Dave, just sort of looking at some of the films that came out of the year. I feel like Shaun of the Dead was probably like the high point, like Layer Cake. Bridget Jones.
Oh, I forgot Layer Cake, but again, Layer Cake was quite a small film.
It was very much so.
It led to huge things for Daniel Craig, but
very much now it's more of a cult classic sort of
I
movie.
only saw it for the first time about 4 months ago.
What?
Yeah, no, I'd never got round to it.
What?
I've seen it now though. Yeah.
No, it definitely is. It's one of those films where it's got a great cast, and obviously you know what they've gone on to become. Also Shrek 2, obviously The Incredibles, as you mentioned.
Shrek 2 is probably the best Shrek film, as I recall. Shrek 2 is probably the strongest of the Shrek films, having only seen all of them about once.
The Shrek of this movie. So it's kind of like the best of not great, mediocre, okay, satisfying at the movies, really. But I'd agree with you, David. It's like the most like Sam Raimi of these three Spider-Man films. I think they kind of make a bit much of Peter Parker and Mary Jane. Some parts are kind of a bit too heavy-handed and perhaps not handled as delicately enough. But for me, I love all of those kind of like that transformation scene is really well done. It's very creepy. As I say, the colours are more poppy. It's very bright, very colourful palette. Definitely, it is more comic book-ish or it sort of looks like more of a comic book movie compared to the first and the third film. For me, it's too long. Oh my gosh, shave off half an hour, and you're fine.
I think
just
the problem
goes on too long.
I think also the main problem here is like I think like with the Marvel films, they've got like proper set pieces that feel different, whereas here it's just like fight Doc Ock again. Okay, then fight Doc Ock. That's what it kind of feels like. It feels just like it feels like sort of the same. I mean, I suppose like the last week's bit like that as well. It's just like, right, okay, then he fights Doc Ock in a different location this time, and grabs someone that Peter cares about, and they say, do you know what I mean? There's no real like.
Well, I think there's a couple of major things this film being so highly rated leans on, and I think the train scene is a lot of it. I think we've seen it done pretty much as well in the Wolverine since then, and other things if I thought about it.
They even did it in The Incredibles.
I knew there was something else, but they've done these sort of train fights since, and I don't really count Skyfall because that's part of a multi-bit sort of sequence.
Definitely. But it's a bit of a trope, isn't it? I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's kind of like it's a common theme, it's a common trope.
I recall the Wolverine did it really, really well. The 2013 Japanese set Wolverine film. Mm. That had a big train sequence, and there's been one since, but I'm absolutely blanking on what it is. And of course, Paddington 2.
That's to be expected, though.
But I think it just stood out. There was some excellent shots in it, the birth of Doc Ock and all the rest of it. And I think also, I get the impression in fandom Doc Ock has a little bit more fan affection than even the Green Goblin did, and to see him come to life and played well.
I think he's a big Marvel fan as well, wasn't he? He was sort of,
you can see that. Yeah.
Known for being a big fan of Marvel, and especially Spider-Man.
Yeah, and as I say, I just watched this film and I just thought, yeah, I can see you doing Doctor Strange now. But I think it lent on that, and I think the critical acclaim for the film lent on a little bit of that, but also the attention that was paid to sort of the inner life of Peter Parker. Mm. There are so many scenes in this film where you can see what he's thinking, and we're focusing on his difficulties. You alluded to that last week. We see this Peter Parker go through it a bit, so I can see where the strengths lie, but the weaknesses are logic. I mean, there are so many logical fallacies in this film. Just we'll come to them one by one. It's like, well,
it's one of those you really have to suspend.
Does Mary Jane know there or not? Oh, right. Well, she would have to, but there she's surprised. And hang on a minute, and there's lots of that through this film. Get Peter Parker's attention by throwing a fucking car at him. I splattered him against the wall of the restaurant. Sorry. Do you have any other leads? They belabor scenes too much, but I mean, I don't know if Becca's right with half an hour. I don't know, but certainly. Well,
for me, it just seems a bit too long. That's just me.
You could tighten it significantly. I mean, it gets even worse next week. I mean, there's a scene next week that I won't spoil here too much for people who either haven't seen it or want to come to what I say about it fresh. But there's a scene where May is talking to Peter. I think it's about how she was proposed to, and we're one level of detail away from, and then I scratched my bum and breathed in, and then I breathed out and looked left. I mean, it's just belabored horrendously. There are conversations in this film that does this, that it's like you've got all the salient points across now, move on. He loses his powers. Well, I understand that there's a lot, and I think a lot of writers reporting on this film gave that almost too much credit, in that they were wanted to sound smart by seeing a load of subtext in that.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem you've got. Obviously, it's writing is a collaborative process, but because you do have many cuts.
I think here's the question I thought about this film, and maybe I could be cleared up on it, but I thought the idea of him losing his powers was a little bit of a. It kind of wants its cake and eat it. There's the idea of like him completely losing his ability powers when he needs them, and then there's that conflict. and there's the idea of him choosing to actually give it up despite him actually still able to do it. Those are two different things, and I think sometimes they introduce both aspects to kind of give maybe Peter like a bit of an excuse to let him off the hook a little bit. It's like, well, I'm losing my powers, I might as well give up a little bit. And I think it kind of you lose the kind of like the deferment. I'm giving it up.
He gives up his powers effectively because he wants a normal life, which might include Mary Jane.
Yeah.
But early in the film, she sort of makes a bit of a play for him, fairly subtle by the standards of these films, and he blows her out. And the next thing, he's reading poetry to impress her. And it's like, but you just turned her down. And then later on, he goes back to normal, she makes another play for him, and he turns her down. And it's like everything seems to have to go through the wash about 4 fucking times. And I use the number 4 deliberately because we get 4 different scenes of him losing his powers. It's overkill. So you could lose 2 of them.
And you kind of with Mary Jane, it's like, Mary Jane, just fucking give it up. Why are you still bothering her with it?
Yeah, we're not sold the relationship at all because he's still a creepy fucking weirdo. You know, she marries, or she's about to marry Mr. Hunky fucking astronaut man.
Yeah.
And, you know, she kisses him upside down, which reminds her that she actually got more excitement from Spider-Man, who the film seems completely unsure whether she knows that's Peter or not. Because that tells you she does know, and at the end of the film, when he reveals himself, she is genuinely stunned. So that doesn't make any sense. Like I say, scenes get belaboured terribly. The whole Doc Ock thing is he's good in it, but they have a fight. Peter's enhanced. You know, he's super strong. He can he can throw a car around and things like that. Doc Ock's arms can, his body can. If Spider-Man punched him, he'd fucking crush his face. So
the two really aren't evenly matched, are they?
That doesn't really work. The whole May losing money stuff. Great, you know, you're trying to put a bit of meat on the bone of this family and the stakes, and you, Sam Raimi, and writers clearly care. You mind the emotional subject matter of this material. So, in which case, I've got a fair amount of respect for what you've done here, because this is not a cynical exercise. It is the sequel to, at this point, the highest grossing superhero film of all time. Mm-hmm. At this point. Not unadjusted, I wouldn't have thought. I imagine certainly Superman 78 unadjusted. You know, if you adjusted, would be higher. But anyway, and yet you're interested in May, and you're interested in. But then they hedge their bets on where the May knows, and it's like Peter can't afford an apartment, she can't afford a house. Why don't they pool their resources?
Well, it makes no sense either way, because Peter's like trying to fork out money for an apartment in Manhattan where she lives in Queens. It makes no sense. It's like you live near enough Manhattan anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't quite get that.
It really makes no sense
and
why
it
Peter.
And if it's proximity to,
given how much it costs as well to actually try and get a place in Manhattan, it's like, well...
Yeah, I mean, it's just absurd. It's just off the chart.
Really is.
Anything we'd ever be able to afford.
Ridiculous.
So, and you think, well, okay, if he's in Queens, is that a problem for him doing the Spidey stuff in downtown Manhattan? Well, he did it in the last film. So, I'm making it sound like it's a terrible film. It's not a terrible film. It's an overloaded film for a good villain performance, although it's not as dark as the Green Goblin. This is
one of those films where kind of like when you really start drilling down into it, you do have to. Obviously, it's it's fantasy very much so, comic book film, but it's like when you start drilling down to it, you actually think,
It's got problems, and it's still. I think the headline for people who are starting to worry listening to this, who are big fans of it, is I think it's pretty good, and I think by the standards of the time, this and X2 were signs that the bar was being lifted. Yeah, X2 was such a smart, thoughtful film, and better than, outside of The Usual Suspects, anything else Bryan Singer's ever done or now ever likely to do for obvious reasons. But Alfred Molina was great in it. He brought a humanity to it.
You really raised that bar, didn't you? I think he's the best thing in it, really, to be honest.
One of the action sequences, and only one of the action sequences, if you don't count the hospital scene as an action sequence, is better than anything else in these three. and I think that's quite memorable. But we get an awful lot of time with Peter, and Peter is still annoying. Even if you like Tobey Maguire, which I very obviously do not, Peter's a bit of a bellend, really. And you care about him more than the audience do, I think, Sam, So we end up with him creepily chasing a woman, and at the end of the film, it's all like, hooray, they've got together, and I'm thinking there's a bloke stood at an altar crying his fucking eyes out as we speak. So I just thought that was all a bit fucking tasteless, to be honest with you. So there's a lot wrong with this. I think finally I would just say, I think it was a year or two ago now, I've always thought James Franco came off as a bit of a sleazy fucking creep. And then I read a bit about him a couple of years ago, and it turns out he is, and I might well have been picking up on that. He's a fucking arsehole in this film. He's meant to be a bit of an arsehole in this film, but
he's meant to be anyway. But he's a
he is towards Peter. But when he's walking around and going on about the Nobel Prize and taking off flash sunglasses, I'm like, you're a prick. If Peter was a decent human being, there's not a chance
they wouldn't be friends.
I mean,
I think that's the whole point, though.
There's problems with the Harry thing as well, because like Harry seems to sort of like jump to like what one gets to sheer hatred. I mean, you think about in the last film, it's like, look, you didn't even like your dad, and now like you have like one brief moment of reconciliation, or like kind of like a bit, you get a bit down and you go like, oh, I guess you were right, Dad, to like, I must avenge my father at all cost, I hate Spider-Man.
And at the end of the last film, you were clearly unhappy that Peter was clearly close to Spider-Man one way or another. But it wasn't the all-out get drunk and slap him that it is in this film. Then towards the end of the film, you've got him hearing the voices of the Goblin. Well, that problem with Norman came from the serum.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not genetic. This makes no fucking sense. So
he's an ass.
This idea that it's, I mean, a bit like, I mean, Superman 1978 still stands up for me. I think it's a fantastic. I mean, the effects have dated and stuff. I still think it's a lovely film. I still think it's a wonderfully atmospheric film. Partly the way it's shot, partly John Williams' score. But a bit like, as much as I love 2/3 of Superman 1978, we sat down and said the third act is a mess. You've got to take these films down off their pedestal and look what they really are. This is the superhero environment of the time beginning to raise the bar, but it's a significantly problematic film in places. But it's the best of the three.
Yeah,
it's still my favourite of the three, definitely.
And for everything I've just said, I enjoyed it, and I didn't love the first film, and I know damn well I'm not going to love the third one.
Yeah, I think we're all going to be like, no, not a fan of that.
It's still fairly well paced as well. Like I said last week, it's still watchable. It's still like sort of put together well, that it flows.
Scenes could have been tighter, but the flow of the film's pretty good.
Oh yeah, no, it still flow definitely, but I kind of feel like it could be kind of chopped here and there and take off half an hour.
And we will cover them one day, but if you were going to say, even if you're sat at Christmas 2004 saying this, no Batman Begins, nothing like that. If you sat here in 2004, well, here you wouldn't, because this house didn't exist. I'd be
physically where you are.
I'd be floating in midair in the middle of a field.
If you could have time travel and go back to 2004.
Even if your memory didn't extend back before 2000,
even if you weren't born,
X2's better than this.
Let's just go back and revisit.
X2 is a better film than this. Forget comic book faithfulness for a minute. Just talk about the logic of how you put a film together. X2 is a more impactful, thought through, internally consistent film than Spider-Man 2. Doesn't mean I like it more, but it is.
Yeah, it sort of really depends, doesn't it? Because you can compare and contrast, and obviously, like within superhero films as well. I mean, you have to sort of compare and contrast sort of within universes anyway. But again, very different films, and it's just one of those things I find it quite difficult to do, but it can be done. We need to go back and revisit X2 as well. So looking forward to, if we ever come across and do that series, I'm looking forward to it for sure.
I think Sam Raimi thinks we care more about the Mary Jane Peter relationship than the average viewer does as well.
It is run through the mill to the sheer point that I think by the time the end where she does choose him miraculously, Also, a bit shitty to do that on your wedding day, but hey ho.
Yeah,
I mean, we're supposed to be like, yay, and it's like some bloke is stood in a church crying as we speak. America's a big country as well. People have probably flown in for this fucking thing.
Yeah, especially. It ain't cheap.
Anyway.
Yeah, amount of money it would have cost them. Well, you know, I think surely, and you imagine surely Owen Parker would be fired. It's like, oh, what?
Eventually, he's going to find out, J. Jonah Jameson, that this like whiny little fucking brat that works for him is like the guy that caused his son all that heartbreak.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. And we don't even get the satisfaction of him being a twat. Usually these films, like, it's either like, oh, the other guy's like a bellend, so we don't feel sorry for him when...
No, he's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a bit colourless in the construct of this film because we don't get a lot of him. But we see that he's well-educated, well-decorated, well-dressed, I'm assuming fairly good-looking, certainly better looking than Tobey fucking Harriet Field face Maguire. Christ, the scene where he's straining to keep that train in place.
That doesn't look very good, does it? It's quite ungainly.
No, his face seems to morph a little bit into Joaquin Phoenix, actually. But yeah, and we don't get a lot. We don't get a lot of his personality. We don't get a lot of his link to Mary Jane, but he is at least a decent guy.
I think with Parker as well, particularly the film does labour. Like, I sound like just whining about the film now, but I've just noticed. But
doesn't matter.
But one of the things that I did notice is it's done well, but again, it's just overkill. Like how much Peter Parker plays up that helpless guy that nothing goes wrong for him. You know what I mean? It's like he tries to grab a drink and it's empty, and he just gets someone picks the last hors d'oeuvre, and he never seems to sort of.
And he's about to take a photo, but by the time he takes the cover off the lens, they've walked away. It's
just constantly stuff like that, and you're thinking that it plays up the angle of like, oh, nothing seems to go right, isn't it?
And they make a real mistake. They make a real mistake, or they do for me anyway. They do it again next week. That his landlord's daughter, my only thought whenever I see her is she's a better match for him.
I thought that as well. And yet it goes nowhere as well. Like,
I'm sorry to say that I completely forgot about her, and it doesn't really go anywhere.
It does go nowhere. I think they share cake next week or something.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that storyline.
And I was thinking, well, what was the point? I mean, she's nice to him, and then
she likes him. She
offers him cake, and then that's pretty much it.
That's where it stops.
All you've done is remind us that the main two in this film don't really have the right chemistry.
Mm.
No, it's a shame. I think they will in later iterations.
When we go into the Garfield films, the central relationship in that is terrific, whatever you think of the films. But then they had a real life relationship, didn't they? So there was a natural chemistry.
Yeah, there's a bit of a crossover there.
I'm not going to insult Kirsten Dunst because I don't think she's bad at all. But like Emma Stone is a different level of talent to Kirsten Dunst. And I would say Andrew Garfield's a different level of talent to Tobey Maguire, but I'm aware I could belabour that point too much, so we'll leave that for a minute. But Tobey Maguire was nearly replaced. That really lame joke where he falls, I think the third or fourth fucking time his powers fail, and he's like, "Oh, my back." That's an in-joke written in. That was an in-joke written in because he
did have back problems.
He injured his back for Seabiscuit, which he filmed before this. And I can't remember if he was demanding more money or what, but it was partly they weren't sure he was going to be ready in time, and partly I think they would have quite happily taken the excuse because there was some sort of dispute. Mm. Kirsten Dunst around this time was dating Jake Gyllenhaal, and she was pushing hard for him.
Hey, my friend Jake.
And Jake Gyllenhaal very nearly sort of took the role.
He ended up appearing in it, 15, 16 years later? He ended up appearing in a Spider-Man film, so he made it eventually.
Again, I think Jake Gyllenhaal is more talented. I've never warmed that much to him either, to be honest. But
I met him in person. He's lovely.
Yeah,
lovely man.
I've heard, and his sister's a very nice person as well. Apparently, they're just nice family. But I mean, now Kirsten Dunst has a child with Jesse Plemons, which I didn't actually know about. But the last thing I saw him in was as Floyd Landis in the Lance Armstrong film with Ben Foster. And
I think he's one of those good character actors. Like whenever he pops up, he always gives a great performance, and he sort of improves everything that he's in, I think.
The journalist that Ben Foster is kind of eerily Lance Armstrong in that film as well. But the journalist that uncovered him, who I've read his book, I've read the real journalist book and seen him in documentaries, but he's played by Chris O'Dowd from the IT Crowd, who also appeared in a Marvel film because he was dating Natalie Portman, wasn't he?
Oh, of course, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Who'd have thought the guy from the IT Crowd dating Natalie Portman?
Yeah. Have you tried turning her on and off again?
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyway, he was able to make it into the film, and for the sake of verisimilitude and everything matching, no problem. I keep on about him, but my problems are him, but my problems are also this version of Peter Parker. I think sort of Sam Raimi's dragged it out of the pages of the sort of Silver Age, and it doesn't quite update in the right way, but we'll get to it. Shall we discuss this film sequentially, folks?
And why not?
And why not? I
like the title sequence. I just want to say that. I just like the artwork.
The title's say that's another reason why this film is better. This has an amazing title sequence.
It makes next week look lazy because it's all styled really the same, but it's photographs instead.
Yeah, I think this was like kind of used as an example of like let's not constantly do origin stories, because like we can just like tell like an origin story like in the title sequence, and I think
just go straight to his retirement. Fuck it.
But I think they actually. I was trying to think of an example of when it was used, but I think it's actually been used in The Incredible Hulk, isn't it?
The Incredible Hulk. The title sequence is basically the birth of the Hulk, and we cut straight to like a few years on.
Mm.
So.
But yeah, this is basically a recap of the first film.
More or less, but it's just slightly.
Previously on Spider-Man.
It's at once. It looks like the actors. It looks faithful to everything, but it's got that sort of comic book stylization to it as well. It's really nice.
And so where do we start though?
We start with him. It fades from artwork to a photograph on a billboard of Mary Jane. I think it's a jeweler's actually, but it's a picture of her face. And again, this guy can't even like see her. There's a scene coming up later that's so creepy around this, but like you can't even ride a bike straight when there's a picture of her. We start with a bit of voiceover with him going, I'm Spider-Man, paid to do a job. I've had to put everything else behind me. And
he's delivering pizzas, isn't he?
Yes.
Trying to.
Well, he's on his way to the pizza place to pick up pizzas to deliver, but he's late because he was doing Spider-Man stuff.
And the address on the pizza delivery shop is the same address as where Doctor Strange lives. I had to think there for a minute.
Oh, that must piss him right off. Trying to read a medical book and pick out a watch, and there's pizzas being.
Yeah,
see that pizza place actually is a real place though. It's Joe's Pizza.
Yeah, it's actually Joe's Pizza, isn't it? If you can go there.
Yeah. And I have. Hey,
I was going to say, you've been there, didn't you?
That's not Joe, though, is it?
No, that's not Joe.
Did you get your pizza in half an hour? Was it under half an hour or whatever the time promises?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not entirely sure because it's mostly like you can walk in, just grab a slice, and that. It's not like I'm not sure how random deliveries are.
Thanks for discounting the $15, but it really doesn't stack up against the 400 quid I spent flying.
Yeah.
Next time we go, let's go.
Yeah.
And do all the movie locations of New York.
Yeah, so basically, I don't know how realistic. I don't live in New York, obviously, and I've had like pizza on a street corner sort of thing, I think, but I haven't. No, I mean, I suppose there's bikes and there's walking and there's ways of doing it, but having been in central Manhattan, I find it hard to believe anyone would actually make a 29-minute guarantee.
It's probably not 20. I'd plucked that out of thin air, but it does seem a little
29
bit.
minutes.
Oh, it's 29 minutes. I was right. Okay.
And Peter's got there with about 7 minutes to go, and he's got to go. I forget what he says now. 42 blocks or something really fucking stupid.
Basically, you've got a long way to travel, but in a short space of time.
And he's like, if you don't make it, you're fired. And he's like, I was into Toshi to get some power converters.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that, isn't it?
Oh, he's doing my head in straight away. And that helmet on his head, he looks a fucking helmet. I'm trying to see. I recognise the guy who played Joe, but I'm trying not to hold us up while I look for it. But yeah, so he just basically starts racing down the road to like on his scooter, and it's not working out. So he races into an alley, changes into Spider-Man, and sort of takes off with them. But then he has to stop partway through to stop some kids from being run over. I think that may have... It's either that or him landing with May as the first public production still I saw from this film. But to cut a very long story short, he drops the pizza on the balcony in it's a very stylized Manhattan, very vanilla sky.
Yeah.
With literally a vanilla sky.
Quite literally.
Well, you notice it in the last scene of the film as well. And there's a joke of him getting the pizza back off the guy, and that guy he stole that guy's pizzas and all that shit. And when he gets there, he's late. The receptionist who says I won't pay for it is Emily Deschanel from Bones. Zoe Deschanel's two things about this. Firstly, it's Zoe Deschanel's sister, so it must confuse her when Tobey Maguire opens his mouth and speaks with her sister's voice. And secondly, she is literally the same age as me to the day.
No.
Emily, yeah, that's day, month, and year.
Oh, birthday twin.
Yeah, I share birthdays with other famous people, but like she's
You
literally,
do.
she's
You got a
literally
famous birthday. Oh yeah.
Bobby Charlton. It's all French.
Oh.
What's he called from True Blood? The guy.
Oh, that guy.
The one who plays
The guy who
Bill.
played the vampire.
He's about 7 years older than me. There's a couple of others as well. Very exciting. I know our listeners must be fucking masturbating furiously.
Yeah. So who do I share a birthday with?
What's your birthday? 2nd or 3rd?
3rd of August. Yeah.
I always get it mixed up. 3rd of August. Hang on a minute. Let's have a look.
Let's find out. If you've got a celebrity birthday, please drop us an email. expecttotalk@gmail.com.
Well, we'll all have celebrity birthdays. Just which ones?
You will. Tony Bennett.
Oh.
He's fucking 94 in the next month.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I knew he must have been knocking on a bit, but you still imagine him walking around with that, Alec Baldwin style with that microphone.
Eric Bergman.
Tom Georgeson, he's an actor. He was in a TV show called Between the Lines, but he's been in loads of stuff, including. Oh, he was the main bad guy, who was Otto's boss in A Fish Called Wanda. That's Tom Georgeson.
Oh.
Terry Wogan.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's it.
Martin
Terry
Sheen.
Wogan.
Martin Sheen. Martin Sheen.
We're all Wogan here.
Hang on a minute. John Landis.
Oh, legend.
Ozzy Ardiles. This is a boring podcast. I'm really sorry, folks. We'll move on. And Becca's birthday was the day Cubby Broccoli died.
Yes, but unbeknownst to you, Dave, I actually share a birthday with Toby. Unfortunately.
Do you? God,
unfortunately.
Embarrassing.
But also Vera Wang. So, the famous designer Vera Wang. So ups and downs.
Well, famous. Who's she? Okay.
she's very famous,
Okay. So,
JJ as well. Share a birthday with
he's got
JJ.
his pizza bit. He's got fired. What next? Does he go home?
Oh yeah.
It's his birthday.
Yeah,
he's fucking noticed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it cuts to him like JJ saying like you're fired because he's trying to like give him non-Spider-Man photos.
Yeah, he's gone into a newspaper that lives on breaking news in one of the biggest cities and best cities in the world, and he hands over like an arty photo of an old man on a bench and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know what was going through his fucking head. But he's about to be fired, and eventually he relents and hands over a photo of Spider-Man, which is masked menace terrorizes city. I thought we saw him go home because he goes home and it's his birthday.
Yeah,
and he has.
They all go surprised, and he goes like, "Oh, what's this for?" It's your birthday, you idiot.
You really are a knob end. Yeah, Mary Jane and Harry have turned up, and they're all smiles.
It's a
and then
rocking
Harry
party.
says, it's a rocking party.
And
They
the
all
best
sort
box
of,
in the world.
they all gangbang Aunt May.
Oh, God.
She's like, ooh, right? And yeah, no, that's not what happens.
The world needs a hero. I believe there's a hero in all of us.
I'm now in you.
And Harry's like, yeah, I'll put a hero in you. Oh, sorry.
Still taking photos of your friend, and he's looking a bit bitter. He's awful in this film, James Franco. I hate him in this film. Just the character's badly written, but there you go. And she's,
it's kind of like he's shoehorned into this film a little bit.
Yeah, it was to set up the third film, which at this point I don't think Sam Raimi knew what he wanted to do with anyway. Because I mean, the third film is just villain overload. But so yeah, Aunt May skint. She's on the verge of losing her house, but that'll sort of come up later. Does he have a chat with Mary Jane out the back now?
Yeah, so it's after like everyone, like sort of everyone's kind of like fallen asleep.
Yeah, because it's such a rocking party. They're worn out.
Such a bang time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, you know, Harry's not happy. He's I think you know May has a talk with him, sort of like, well, something about how Mary Jane and whatever, and yeah, so they meet outside like fence like they did in the first film.
This is creepy because she touches his face at one point, and it's like Frodo when he's like fingering fucking one ring.
See,
I'm trying not to sound.
He loves it.
I can't help but like think this is just a bit odd. Like now, she pretty much gives him her chance to kind of like,
yeah.
She basically comes up and then it's
I'm
like,
dating someone, but I'd rather be with you.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm dating someone. It's like, yeah. Well, what are you doing then?
Right. So either you're dating someone and you don't really like them, but they'll do for now, and you're trying to tip the nod, or you've got to the end of the conversation. He's kind of not giving you what you want, so you're just going to go, well, I'm seeing someone anyway. Well, it turns out she actually is.
And it's been pretty serious.
And it's pretty serious, and it's like revenge marriage never really tends to work out. You know? I've known, I can't think who now, but I'm sure in my life I've known people who've married effectively on the rebound as an element of... Oh, God. Not spite, but like almost trying to show the world they're over it, and part of that is aimed at the ex as well. So I don't know what the fuck's going on here.
That's crazy relationship.
When she touches his face, there's a bit in Lord of the Rings where Frodo is sort of later in the films, and he's rubbing his finger round the ring. That sounds dodgy. But his eyes
he does,
sort of fall back to his head.
Yeah, he does.
It happens here, and it's like, you creepy fucker.
It kind of makes you not like Mary J, MJ, really, doesn't it? Because like, well, why are you coming on to him if you're like...
Yeah, and do you know what my overriding thought when I watched this today was, on this scene, apart from that's really creepy, because I don't think I'd noticed how much he luxuriates in the touch on his face. But my first thought was, well, this is ultimately flawed, because the pair of you just need to fucking grow up. That's what it is. It's like, you're like, no, I'm not dating you, and you're like, well, I'm seeing someone. And it's like, grow up, for fuck's sake. Am I meant to be invested in this?
Yeah, I mean, I think to a broader point, I think the problem, particularly with this Peter Parker, is that he just needs to get a fucking grip.
Yeah.
Because he just doesn't seem to... I know... Apologies if this expression upsets people. I know it's like, probably not, but, you know, he needs to just fucking man up. Do you know what I mean? Either like, you know, just get over it and move on. Or you know, do you know what I mean? Just stop fucking just like badgering about, you know, if commit to being Spider-Man or not. Do you know what I mean? Like, or...
There comes a point where it's like, on the one hand, I appreciate the attempt to show the inner dilemma and add some depth to this. But it goes on so long through a film that feels fairly long that eventually you just go, oh shit, or get off the pot, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what it is. And it's all to do with the way it's acted, played, and belaboured. And again, not at any point, not at any point would I believe Kirsten Dunst would want this fucking guy. But Kirsten Dunst doesn't do enough in the character for me to think that she's any fucking great prize either. But anyway, so do we go straight to Otto Octavius now?
No, so he's at university. There's there's stuff about him being late, obviously, because he's doing Spider-Man stuff. He's late.
Kurt Connors, who we'll see in the reboot.
Yeah, he pops up, doesn't he?
Which makes me think they'll see those plans to sort of do him as a lizard later on in another film.
I think they were keeping their options to do it. He was contracted, I believe, for more films, and they reserved the right to do it, sort of thing. But he was only ever a bit part character, but they played up the missing arm.
Yeah, I'll say they still got you can still see the fact that he's only got one arm.
Whereas they could have just put a character in called that as a little Easter egg, but he's,
I guess at the time they didn't know kind of which way it's going to go or which way it's going to work out, do they?
Yeah. Or what they feel like doing.
Exactly. It could have been that, when they came to cast.
At least with Nolan. At least with Nolan and his Batman films, he tried to select the villain based on the themes of the film. So the first film is very much about mastering your fear, so it's the Scarecrow. The second film is about escalation and dealing with chaos, so it's the Joker. Yep. The third film is about physical decline, so he puts him up against Batman's biggest physical threat, Bane.
He's like.
And I just think with this is a bit 90s Batman sort of series problem in that you go with one of the biggest villains and then who's next?
Yeah, it's like you go, up and up and up, and you kind
next?
And you can't stop.
I think the hierarchy's a little bit less clear with Batman than it is with, say, Spider-Man than it is, say, Batman's Rogues Gallery, because Batman's chief antagonist is the Joker without question, whereas you could argue who might go first in this. But there is an element of...
Yeah, that's one of those things, really, isn't it?
They've picked Doc Ock because it's film 2, not because Doc Ock is germane to Peter's journey in this film. But that only really became a thing with Nolan, to be fair. So,
I don't know who would the Spider-Man arch nemesis be. I don't know.
Again, he's just got no control on his life. He's turning up to class, and he's like, "Class is finished. Hence, I'm stood here." And
he's too busy being Spider-Man.
I think the problem with the villains, in terms of the Raimis particularly, is they kind of almost like the same kind of thing. It's almost like they're really kind of good, or they're not all that bad, but something happens that kind of that makes them go crazy. Do you know what I mean? With Goblin,
and it's not their fault really. And even in the third film, it's terrible in the third film, but they tried to humanise him with constant talk of his fucking daughter.
It's that kind of, and one of the things, the thing for the Raimi's films, it does make me obviously I know at least in the third film you have Venom, which you'd probably say is a flat out villain. The Eddie Brock there is
wasted as fuck, but yeah.
But again, it's it's not.
If you want to see the Venom story done right, watch the 90s fucking cartoon, because they've got a 3-part arc, the symbiote thing or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it takes you through it. It takes you through it bonding to him first and so on. And again, it's done for a cartoon audience. There are limitations in it. It's much shorter, but it's the main beats of how you'd want the story done. You'd have done. Firstly, he should have been the only villain in a film with Venom in it, not someone given 5 minutes. But it's set up perfectly in a film where you're exploring good and bad. You didn't need the Sandman in that film, but he seemed to be the chief antagonist for some fucking reason.
It's something that you set up pre-film. So you have a film with him in the black suit and dealing with that, and then you set up Venom as the villain for the next film, wouldn't you? It'd be along those lines. Yeah. One
of the final, almost the now with the Marvel post-credit sequence. In the post-credit sequence, it bonds to Eddie Brock. Simple as that. But anyway. There's lots of different ways you could do it. I'm not saying it had to be exactly but anyway, that's a conversation for next week. Doc Ock is, I think, 90%, a high percentage of the effect of the character in a positive note is the way he's shot and the effects and stuff, but also Alfred Molina. I just think you put most other actors in this role, it just wouldn't have been as good. I just think he was just very, very good in the role.
And it was very much like, oh, who's this guy? So to credit to Raimi, it shows that you don't necessarily need a name. You just sort of hire an actor that you like and does
Alfred
a good job.
Molina's had a wonderful career, but he wasn't a massive movie star.
Yeah, because I remember at the time, like, oh, who is this guy? Like, I heard us. Oh, he's in Raiders in the Lost Ark. So I was like, who's he in Raiders of the Lost Ark?
He's in the first scene.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it took me a while to figure that out as well, because obviously
it's like, no, he's quite well known, isn't he? But then when you go back and revisit, you think, oh my god, it's that guy.
Internet wasn't quite like how it was back then.
I mean, bear in mind, this is 16 years ago. He's been in loads of stuff.
Yeah,
he's had a glittering career.
We're talking back to 2004, and I'm just looking back now to see pre-2004 what I knew him best from, because I knew him, and I knew him fairly well, not just as Satipo or whatever the character's called.
Wouldn't he be in Shirley Valentine?
Yeah, that was Tom Conti.
Oh, was it? Oh, sorry, I'm getting mixed.
Easy to get them.
He played Poirot in a TV movie, but it's not that. He was in Chocolat.
Yeah, it wasn't quite. He was quite good, but it's not quite.
He was in Chocolat. I remember him from that. He was in Magnolia. But I honestly think the thing I know him best from was he played Tony Hancock on TV.
Oh, of course he did.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. I can't remember what it was called now. But yeah, he played Tony Hancock in a TV film. He was in Letter to Brezhnev as well. I have seen that. But
he's had a really good sort of mix of sort of like anime, games,
he's had a
TV, film projects.
Yeah, he's had a wonderful career.
Well, Lady Hawk,
and also on stage as well.
Lady Hawk, wasn't that?
That's Richard Donner with I think Michelle Pfeiffer and Rutger Hauer.
Right.
Classic movie.
I was getting confused with the other Rutger Hauer film that was Paul Verhoeven's first.
He also made Prince of Persia.
Yeah. Oh, he was in Maverick as well, the Mel Gibson film version of the TV show. Oh, I do remember him from Species. He was like, he was the doctor in Species.
Did that TV series with Dawn French a few years ago, didn't he? Probably about 10.
Which one?
Boogie Nights.
Yeah, I know he was in that, but I'm literally just trying to pick on the things that I definitely knew at the time or thought.
But he's always very watchable, though, isn't he? He always kind of, he doesn't kind of ever sort of phone it in. I'm quite happy to watch whatever he does.
he's really good. He lost his wife only about 3 months ago. His wife was Jill Gascoigne. If I got their name right. She was a British TV actress. She was in a couple of related cop shows. She was in one called The Gentle Touch, and then it spun off into one called Cat's Eyes. But she was about 16, 17 years older than him. So she died about 83 years of age about 3 or 4 months ago, and she'd had dementia for years. And she was living in a home and everything. He hasn't had an easy ride in the last few years trying to care for her and stuff like that. But yeah, so he's really good in this, and he's a lot of the appeal from it. And the Doc Ock brought to life would have been a big thing at this point. We just hadn't seen these things live action. And the only series that's competing with this at this point is the X-Men, which was a lot more grounded in that incarnation.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. Of course, like a year or so, it's about to be taken over by Brett Ratner. So
yeah,
but we'll do that.
Lovely stuff. Brett Ratner, a lovely human being.
Oh god,
great director. Right. Okay. So where do we go from there?
Alpha Millie, he's very warm, isn't he? Very plays it very warm, kind of like nice character.
I want him to be my dad.
Yeah.
There, I said it. And I don't want Donna Murphy to be my mum because I'd find that too confusing.
I think that's really great that she's in this film for like 5 minutes and she gets like top billing. I think that's really cool. It's like she's not 5 minutes. She's in it for a little bit longer than that, but it's like a blink and you miss it roll.
It's so MILF hunters like me turn up.
I think that's what it was. They thought, right, okay, let's attract some people.
Yeah, I just remember the Plinkett review of Insurrection, and he's talking away in Plinkett's voice, and he goes, and of course, he's got a MILF who wants to sit on his face. And it's just like Donna Murphy.
Song about that.
Yeah, so he's taken to meet Doc Ock. This fusion experiment, which did get mentioned. He's doing science stuff. It's basically cheap energy. It's like a second sun, and the details beyond that don't work. They don't matter really. He isn't rude, but he is like, I haven't got a lot of time, and he's like, but I pay the bills, Harry says. So it's like, okay. So he sits down and has like tea with Alfred and his personal MILF. And this conversation makes my teeth itch. It goes on a bit too long. It's kind of nice. It's a little bit cheesy because it's all the quote unquote adults talk to the teenagers in homilies. That's all they do in the entire fucking series. It just goes on a bit too long, and I like I say, he's a whiny little twat. I don't care, but Alfred Molina, you get a sense of him as a decent man. His wife is there just to humanise him. The fact she's killed immediately is a waste, but it's to humanise him and play up the tragic figure, you know. Because there's a bit when the experiment happens where he starts it up and she looks so proud of him before it goes wrong. So they've obviously got a very strong marriage. But he tells her, he asks if he's got a girlfriend, and decisive Peter Parker of this series is like, I don't know.
Well, you haven't, Pete.
The answer's no, Pete. Fucking, it's like, are we supposed to root for this bellend? And he's like, read her poetry, and it's like, but he turned her down 5 minutes ago. Now the film has got him obsessively boning up on poetry. Whilst his colours run, we've even got to watch him do his fucking laundry. It's like, we get it. He's having a tough time. That will do.
That'll win the heart of any girl, you know. But I think it works because he is just so warm when he's like this.
It's meant nicely as well, and it's only semi-serious. I don't mean he's winding him up per se, but he's not saying do that and you'll definitely get her. He's just being like warm about his memories with his wife. You know, I read her some, and you know, this is how we met and stuff, and it plays okay. It's just this film has got a terrible habit of getting 2 minutes of information across in 7 minutes. You know, that's its problem. And again, I'm making it sound like I don't like it, and it's not true. I do like it, but lauded, you know, sit and really watch it. It's got some flaws. We go on to the experiment now, don't we?
I think I'm trying to remember that. I did write notes and I've lost them, sadly. But yeah, more or less we can. We can
go through to that. It's all right.
But yes, obviously there's the through line is like Harry's like sort of trying to fund this.
Harry's funding, Oscorp is funding it, which is now obviously Harry's company, even though it was bought out in the last fucking film. It was bought out in the last film. Harry would not be in this position.
No.
And in fact, it had been accepted by the board, who it was established could outvote Norman. So even if Harry,
though everyone's dead though, so
yeah.
Oh, I guess. Minor
detail.
All right. Minor, yeah, okay, all right, fair enough. But I don't suppose it really matters. But I don't know how he became a bellend this quickly. Just think of the smarmiest salesman you've ever met in your life, and that's like Harry in this film.
I think they were kind of trying to turn him into like the villain of the next film, but then obviously that kind of took a left turn, didn't it? That kind of went in another direction. So.
Oh, the way they do that in the next film's fucking nuts. But anyway.
The whole film.
That's the logical conclusion, because you're just slowing like, well, it's going to be Harry going to be the villain and next time round, clearly.
Was that because with oh gosh, I've forgotten his name.
I don't know.
Willem Dafoe?
Yes, sorry, I forgot his name. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So, to be fair, she could have been talking about literally
I could talk about anybody.
Dennis Watson.
Yeah, he wasn't meant to be in it, was he? He was kind of meant to be like just his voice, but then I think he happened to be walking along. They're filming in his street because he sort of lives in the area, and they sort of like, oh hey, how you doing? You know, we'll write you into the scene at the end.
I happen to have my dressing gown with me.
Yes, I happen to have it here. I've got the shirt on. It's fine.
What were the chances?
Well, it literally just happened like that. He wasn't meant to be in it, and he just happened to bump into the crew and was like, "Oh, hi, yeah, we'll give you a cameo. It's all good."
Right.
So yeah, I think they set it up to be that way for the next film, and then obviously we know it didn't turn out like that as such.
Yeah. So this experiment involves a load of, I'm assuming, investors watching with no protection guard or anything, and he's never even practiced this experiment. While he sort of uses something called tritium
in the middle of New York as
in
well.
the middle of New York, yeah. And it's going to create this big, like, mini sun. Think like red giant, basically, but about the size of a beach ball. Although it gets a lot bigger later in the film when they do it again. But anyway, at this point, and basically there's a containment field around it that he manages with these fake limbs that are sort of into his spinal cord and wave around the outside of it. That appears to be the sciencey bit. And it's conveniently not tapped into his higher brain functions, so he has control over it, but they work like an extra pair of arms, so he can do things. A, he can do more, and B, they're more robust than human hands. I think that's the idea. The film doesn't sell it that well.
Yeah, he can get close to it and do stuff with it, and like kind of.
And at this point, everyone is as thick as shit. Because A, they stand right near it with no guard, no fear when anything starts going. And not only that, Peter disappears when Harry turns to look at him, and then Spider-Man appears. And no one puts two and two together at all. She's killed his wife by like flying glass, because this basically becomes a big magnet, but not just for metal. Primarily metal, but yeah, it is metal actually. Metal gets dragged towards it.
Yeah, because it's for the metal for the windows, isn't it? And
it's the window frames, yeah, and the glass comes flying out with it, and basically spears her in the eye. You don't see it, but it's very sort of subversive Sam Raimi, that shot.
Yeah,
and she screams, and it's like
you see, it's from the reflection of the glass,
and then it's like, "Sleep well, my pretty milf," and that's it. Spider-Man swings in, saves Harry, and he's like, where that doesn't change anything, because he's that much of a twat. And he rips out again.
I mean, you think he caught Spider-Man with like a knife in his hand over his dad's corpse.
This is a misunderstanding that is so easily sorted out. But they don't.
You wouldn't think, like, hang on, what actually happened with my father then? You know,
the film has to strain to keep this going, because in any normal world, particularly once he finds out it's Peter would go, "That's not what happened," and then he would either believe it or not, but you would at least have a go. He basically unplugs the thing. Doc Ock gets kind of electrocuted, and the inhibitor chip on his neck gets broken. So he's now knocked out. Peter's saved everybody, and that's it, really.
Harry's now ruined.
Harry's now ruined.
I'm ruined.
He's not, though.
No, exactly.
But anyway,
I found that quite hard to believe.
But he does become a self-pitying prick after this. I mean, he's just a prick before this, but after this, he's a self-pitying prick. Then what? I don't think we go. Do we go straight to the hospital? I'm not sure. But yeah, the experiment is shut down and destroyed, basically. And at the hospital, they've got to cut the thing. They're not quite sure what they're describing. They're talking about doing a spinal fusion after they've taken it out, but they don't know what they're going to see till they get in there. But they need to cut off the limbs first. The fake limbs, not his limbs.
I was going to say.
And it's like, did any of you take shop? And then suddenly the limbs, they're now acting independent of Doc Ock, who's got his eyes covered for some reason. But that's just for the visual of he can't see what he's doing.
I do know for a fact that in surgery you do kind of like at least tape over the eyes.
Do you? Didn't know that.
I know they do sometimes for for animals, but I didn't know they did it for people. That's interesting.
Because I think the idea of, obviously, because when you're like under anaesthetic, you want your eyes closed anyway, so it just keeps that down.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I I don't.
Just a medical fact.
I don't know whether. I mean, I can think of one reason. Well, you don't want your sort of like your eyes to be like wide open.
No,
because your eyes would dry out.
It can be quite off-putting.
It could be also just in the case of like you randomly seem to sort of like wake up. You don't want to be like seeing shit. Possibly, I don't know.
No,
well,
it might be quite traumatic.
Could be. I mean that's speculative. I actually don't know if that's the case. But anyway, yeah, I digress. But yeah, the
medical fact.
Just for one scene, I mean, they get around to the rating very well, but just for one scene, you wished it was Evil Dead and was a total fucking bloodbath.
I think it's done in a way that's, without showing too much blood and gore, it's done in a way that's, well, I still found it scary. And it's really effective with the way that the lighting, obviously there are some, I was going to say cheap, but I don't mean that in a bad way. The sort of well-trodden, like, horror tropes, that sort of Max Shrek kind of, Nosferatu kind of just showing that, as it chiaroscuro, like showing the like shadows, very much kind of like 30s expressionism, that sort of stuff. And like one of the surgeons are kind of like dragged away with her nails like cutting into the floor, like it's kind of it's kind of like another horror trope, definitely. But like there are other ways of doing it, and it's still, I could say, like enjoyable, if that makes sense. You still get a lot out of it, and it is very very much Sam Raimi. Definitely, it's like his signature thing.
It's done in a way which is like a bit obscure. Like, well, are they dead or are they just knocked out? Do you know what I mean? It's,
you don't always know. It's a bit.
I mean, you kind of like. You kind of assume it kind of assumes that they're dead, but then you don't see anything particularly that would mean that they died from it. I mean, you could have like the occasional sort of like crack or something just to hear like that's his neck broken, or just like allude to that. But yeah, it is a bit too obscure, but it is shot really well because each one of his hands have cameras, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So they all kind of like you kind of sort of see from their like point of view and that. And yeah, so they're working out, and he wakes up a bit kind of dazed and possessed, and not really know what goes on. But he breaks out from the hospital and finds like this random place in the harbour. He basically sort of like at the point, I'm ruined. I'm just gonna commit suicide because my love of my life is gone. But then obviously the chip's broken, and then the actual arms start talking to him, and sort of start becoming control of him.
He goes crazy.
Yeah, we don't hear them. It's very like the Sooty Show or something.
Yeah, and it's all a bit internalised, isn't it? So...
What he bangs on the table.
Was that Matthew?
He goes, "What's that?"
Yeah, once we asked you for no. But yeah,
and one makes a squeaky sound.
Sweet, and,
Yeah.
One arm's called Sue, the other one's called Sweep. The other one's City Junior.
Sue had quite a nice voice. I've never
she's
been that attracted to a guy.
Sweep just squeaked his way through.
Yeah.
Hit people with a hammer occasionally.
Yeah.
And the other one called Gordon the Gopher. No.
Not the same cinematic universe. Right.
Sweep cinematic universe.
So after this, do we cut to J. Jonah Jameson naming him?
Yeah.
Right, you're on fired.
No, I think that's after the bank thing.
Is it after the bank? All right. So to the bank. So again, ladling on what a horrible life the family have.
Mm.
They're there to refinance her house after opening a like Super Saver account that gives you a free toaster or something.
Yeah.
Like, as financial planning goes,
that's the incentive, isn't it? That's the incentive.
This has got gaps though. If I thought, right, I've got to convince the bank to give me a mortgage, right? What do I do?
Get a free toaster.
Okay. What I do is I open a Super Saver account with about 10 quid, right? And they give me the mortgage and I get a toaster. That's what, yeah, so this is shite. And is it me or is Doc Ock in the exact same bank at the same time, which is handy? But he's there trying to steal what looked like those sort of gold chocolate buttons you used to get. What currency is stored in this bank? It's like something they would steal in Pirates of the Caribbean.
It's that classic cartoon thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah, It's literally like big circular gold coins.
Yeah.
And it's all in the bank. That's yeah. I don't understand, but okay. So yeah, they're basically there while this happens. He saves May, then jumps away, turns into Spider-Man.
It goes, Peter, don't leave me. I think, well,
yeah. He's like, I'm off. Fuck this. No, he comes back as Spider-Man, and they have a very average fight.
And he takes Aunt May hostage.
He takes Aunt May. Peter does a couple of really lame quips in a really creepy, croaky shit voice. Something like that.
And Aunt May would go through something which would probably give any woman that age a heart attack.
What? Where he drops her?
Well, just all of it, really.
All of it. But when he drops her, it's like, oh no, I know. Yeah, this actress at this point would have been in her late 70s.
Yeah, and she's there, like, being thrown around, like, on top of high buildings, hanging off ledges by a brolly.
Yeah, and they get into a bit of a fight and stuff, and it's like
she even like handbags the villain.
Yeah, I know. Anyway. It's kind of like a Les Dawson character. Yeah, some of the green screen work here is not that good either. But
American listeners, just Google Les Dawson.
Yeah, basically when he dressed as women. Yeah. Or Dick Emery, or something like that. Yeah. And then we have this, like, she's sliding down her umbrella. And it's like, ah! And then she just, like, touches the floor, and it's like, is this meant to be funny? So he rescues her, and she's all like, Spider-Man's a hero. Octavius is, like, away. That's that.
Mm-hmm. She doesn't like Spider-Man at the beginning of the film. We forgot to mention. She's like, I was wrong about you.
Yeah, and it's like, and to be fair, my first thought when she said that was, what did you think of him? I can't remember.
But the thing is, though, he says something that's kind of reasonable. It's like, we showed him, as in, like, that's kind of like a nice little sort of, like, a friendly thing to say to someone who just, like, been in conflict with, like, a big sort of tentacle man, and she goes, "We?" As in, like, really questioning. It's like, I don't need to be a dick about it.
That's exactly what he sounds like.
I thought she was going to slap him when the first time I saw it. She got genuinely put out by that.
Yeah,
she does.
It's like,
and today I actually don't understand why. I'd have liked that though. Spider was a bit more blunt like that. Just goes, we. It's like, well, go fucking a bitch.
I can't wait till you regenerate into fucking spank material.
Anyway,
so there's the naming Doc Ock scene, which is all right. It's a continuation of the Jonah Jameson scenes from the last film. Constant, your wife's lost her credit card, tell her congratulations or whatever. They're trying to get a front page. He's having 7 different conversations at once. He's trying to name Doc Ock. Ted Raimi comes up with Doc Ock. He turns that down, and they circle through other things, including Doctor Strange, which he says is taken, which means Doctor Strange would exist in this continuity somehow. And they circle back to Doc Ock. And Peter's trying to get an advance for a job taking photos at a party that evening for that Jonah's running. And it's John Jameson, who's an astronaut.
My son, the astronaut.
I'm pretty sure that's how the Venom symbiote came back in the...
It is in the comics, yeah.
It came back on that craft. And Harry's there drunk.
We have a bit where he tries to win Mary Jane back a bit, because we do establish that he's starting to lose his powers sort of gradually. And
I thought the first time was when he left here. Because it's
established early on that he starts to have lose his powers from the early on where
I thought it was when he left here, because the first time you see his powers fail it's at night and it's him running away from this party.
I think if I remember correctly, he goes to. I think before he skipped a bit where he goes to see Mary Jane. Tries to go to get a ticket for Mary Jane. But he stops like a bank. He stops like like someone who's just robbed a bank or like some. And he beats into Bruce Campbell.
We have missed that. Yeah, she's in a Broadway play or something like that. He keeps promising to go and see it. She makes a point to him later. Everyone went to see it.
Like, you're an empty seat kind of thing.
Yeah. He goes out with just his suit on after that scene where we see it running, discolour his pants like we give a shit. Oh my god, Spider-Man's got slightly pink pants. And yeah, he's late to it because of that thing, and Bruce Campbell is playing this sort of usher on the door, and he won't let him in because you can't come in after the play starts. And he's full of apologies.
Brilliant. It's like snooty usher.
He's full of apologies on the phone to her the next day on a payphone, which tells you something.
Well, it's one of those things, isn't it?
But she's really unhappy about it.
Smartphones weren't even in proliferation.
And smartphones weren't, but mobiles were. Every fucker had them by 2004. But anyway,
I don't think I did. Not until late 2004.
Most people had them by 2004.
But then also the idea is that he's out of money. He's probably struggling at work, that sort of thing. So he might not be able to afford a cell phone. So
okay.
There's contrast also between like his family and also like when he has dinner with Octavius, whatever his name is, as a start. It's kind of basically the sort of the family and life that he perhaps wouldn't have been able to have. So you got the contrast there as well.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I do remember reading back in the day, cell phone take-up was slower there than it was here.
Yeah, definitely. But I think that now seeing a payphone, you feel like, what?
I got my first one in like early 2000, and literally like within a few months, everyone had them.
Yeah.
I think like the next generation up, like my parents and that, they took like another year or so. But
yeah, it's always
like
a bit
2004, most
not
people
great uptick, definitely. But yeah, it's very weird now. Especially in the age of smartphones, smart devices, it's very weird to see a payphone, isn't it?
This is another thing that's pushing her towards this other guy, because she's made a play for him. He said no. He then like wants to sort of learn poetry and impress her, but then he can't turn up. And then that seems to be the final straw for her. So when we get to this party, she's seen with the astronaut, John, and they're engaged to be married. And it's like, within the last few days, you've been upset listening to a voicemail message because Peter's let you down. Why would the audience go with you deciding to marry this person? It just makes you sound an asshole.
And like he's like sort of like he's such an arrogant. Yes, but you were late, mate. Like, it's just kind of like, well, don't be late. It's fair enough.
You're making excuses and you're trying to make light of it. Like, someone really ought to do something about him, and it's like, you've missed the point. Abject apology, that's all you can really do now. Not say there was some usher. He's always got an excuse, but the trouble is he always needs an excuse. But yeah, this party, Harry's drunk. And he's on about his friend Spider-Man, and he slaps Peter a couple of times. And so, yeah, the job's not going that well that night. Can't even get a drink. The woman he loves is engaged to somebody else, and his best friend's just slapped him twice.
Slapped him in public, yeah.
And that's when, and she really has a go at him as well for like being the empty seat. And he does leave, run down the alley, rip, sort of Christopher Reeve style, rip open the shirt. And
I thought that was very much a Superman moment, wasn't it? I kind of, instead of hearing this, Spider-Man's change, you kind of hear the Superman theme tune.
Starts swinging through the city, and that's where it fails, and he falls a hell of a distance.
It hurts, isn't it? It's really painful.
Well, he doesn't complain about it this time. It's more like, what was that? It's almost like he's got either stronger bones or some kind of exoskeleton.
It's like the impact of it. He's kind of like.
The impact would kill you if you weren't enhanced in some way.
It's shocking.
Yeah. So he's losing his ability there. And then we find out. Then we go into quite a ponderous bit of the bloody film, because we've got to sort of wait for like Doc Ock to be rebuilding this thing.
How I'm not entirely sure. It's like, oh, I just need funds. Well, how are you gonna like go to buy the things you need? Like,
We see him sat emptying boxes of it, and it looks like freight, like he's had to fly it in from somewhere. It doesn't make sense. Surely you steal the stuff, not the money to buy the stuff. It's like I see like a really expensive watch in a jeweler's window, and I think I'd love to nick that, so I go and rob a bank to get the money to buy it. It's like, I could have cut out the middleman there. We've got all this stuff with what have we got now? He gives up being Spider-Man, doesn't he?
Well, yeah. So I think he he does. He kind of like, I am Spider-Man no more.
And at this point, his powers have failed once. His life's being ruined by this. It would make sense. It's only a bit later on.
Yeah, there's little things like, oh, his web hasn't worked and things like that for like randomly. But
when he decides he's all motivated again and it fails again, it's like you're belabouring an arc that's just finished. So, the suit is sort of passed into the Daily Bugle, and he has a conversation with Aunt May. I think they go to the grave. And he tells her about how he's responsible for his death, which he isn't really, but there you go. And does the single tear thing. And it's a really long scene again. And it's just like, I don't care about these two. But bless you, film, for having a go. You're supposed to be given a bit of depth to these people.
Yeah, she just like walks away, clearly upset. I'm not sure what happens after or before, but there's like a really cheesy montage bit of him being carefree.
2 raindrops keep falling on my head.
Yeah.
He's got to put the glasses back on because his eyesight's failing as well. Not failing as in he's going to go blind, but back to the damaged eyesight he had in the first film before he was enhanced. So he sticks his glasses on, wears overly nerdy clothes. He suddenly goes to like wearing really kind of old man clothes by and large, and going to like
he's walking down the street really awkwardly as well, but in a really sort of self-assured way. It's really
know, and it's like everyone's backed off from him as well, because it's like New York. It's a university in New York. You'd be crowded. So that feels really strange. It feels like social distancing 16 years early. And he's in class giving answers to the questions with cheesy grins on his face. It's all right.
It's the freeze frame shot that gets me. It's just like...
There's a freeze frame for a split second that's out of focus and then goes back into action again.
I thought it was like a skipping problem on my DVD or something.
No, it's just shit.
I thought that's a bit of a hokey transition, but I thought maybe my DVD was broke, but maybe not.
But if it wasn't just a momentary stop and it had ended there, you'd have gone fine. But why did you pause on out of focus for a split second?
Giving like a really sort of like, I got told a good job from my professor.
It's like, so what?
Yeah.
I don't care. We know you're pretty good. The chances are, if you weren't being Spider-Man, you'd be all right in class.
And he's there. He makes it to the play, but it's like
in the interim. And again, I don't remember where it falls in the film. He goes back to his 1-room apartment, and it's rent. And he says, all I've got is this 20, which was given to him by Aunt May. And he nabs that straight away. The girl nearly sets the kitchen on fire because she's just distracted by how sexy Tobey Maguire is. But she's kind of cute. She's right for him, not Mary Jane. But there you go. She's awkward, but so's he. Yeah, he's gone back to normal. In the meantime, Harry is like, at home drinking himself fucking silly. He's ruined, but he's still living in this fantastic palatial apartment.
It's amazing.
And then he hears a noise, and it's like Doc Ock walking up the side of the building, and sort of smacks him in the face. Use the fucking lift, mate. He wants money. He wants the trillium or whatever it is. He needs the resources. And Harry says, "Get me Spider-Man." And he says, "How do I do that?" And he says, "Peter Parker." And it's like, I remember watching not the Honest trailer. I think it was the pitch meeting for this, where the producer guy goes, "That is how photography works."
Yeah, generally, it does have some great lines, doesn't it? It has some great lines.
It's like that doesn't make them mates, but all right. And so, skipping on a bit, Doc Ock thinks this ordinary man I don't know very much about, although I've met him. I need him to get his attention to tell me who Spider-Man is and where Spider-Man is. Or just where Spider-Man is, actually. So I'll throw this car through the window at him.
Yeah. Bear in mind that that's just after Harry sort of like, "Oh, by the way, don't hurt Peter," even though I've just given like his name to...
And he wants Spider-Man alive as well. So overwhelmingly, he doesn't know Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So he's just thrown a car at the back of a person. So if he didn't have spider sense, it would have killed him. If he is Spider-Man, he doesn't know the extent of Spider-Man's power. So if he knows that he's Spider-Man somehow, he doesn't know that won't kill him. He's not encountered spider sense. This is bollocks. But he's sat in a cafe with before this, she's at home with John. I'm assuming I don't know if they live together, but they are together of an evening. He's laying out on the sofa, and she mimics the upside down kiss from the first film. You should be proud of me, listeners, because I bypassed a bro job joke there. I just went straight for thank you very much. Thank you.
Literally, round of applause. I am moving my hands in a circular fashion.
And he's like, "I'm back on the moon." It's like, that was a bit camp, wasn't it? And she's not moved by it, so she obviously wants someone. We don't know who
can kiss her upside down.
Specifically an upside down kiss. So even if it was, she has kissed Peter, but it was a regular kiss. And we thought she realised then, but she didn't. It's an upside down kiss because at the end of the film, she did not know. So this kiss that wasn't as good as Spider-Man tells her that she's still in love with Peter Parker, who she doesn't know is Spider-Man. Fucking brilliant plotting, greatest superhero film ever made.
Yeah, certainly not the greatest superhero movie ever made.
I mean, before this, we had he turns the play and he sort of gives her poetry and he gives the "I'm confused" kind of. He makes her confused again by saying, "I'm not an empty seed. I've got this thing that I don't have to do anymore," Yeah. And then in the next scene,
and then she meets him for like coffee or lunch or something.
Yeah,
and basically says, "I want
I've got to do it now."
and he's like, "Nah."
Well, no, that thing I said I don't have to do. Well, yeah, I kind of have to do it now. Because before then he had a chat with
a doctor,
Aunt May.
Oh, and a doctor. Oh, yeah. So he chatted to a doctor and said, "Now, he said he had a dream he was Spider-Man and was losing his powers," which is tenuous enough, not tipping the nod to the doctor. But when he actually then goes, "Well, it wasn't even my dream, it was a friend's dream," I'm like, that's not how symbolism works.
Yeah.
If someone told me, if someone said to me, I dreamt about an alligator attacking me last night, that wouldn't mean I'm about to meet the woman of my dreams or something. That's like, if there's symbolism in dreams, it's for the person having the dream.
Well, it makes sense. It's like, I'm not going to diagnose a passive dream that your mate told you. I'd want to hear from your mate for me to diagnose anything, surely.
So the doctor sort of knows. And he's like, "Well, your friend." And he's like, "It's all up here, it's in the head." And it's like, you've just had a medical examination because you can't shoot webs. And your eyesight is back to what it was at the start of the first film. So if you have a medical test at that point, you're going to look like a perfectly healthy 19-year-old man. So, what did you expect the doctor to fucking tell you?
I don't know.
And all of these scenes go on for fucking ages. And he has a talk with Aunt May.
These scenes are quite long. I must admit. I think these scenes are
the one
probably
with Aunt
grated.
May. The one with Aunt May. I like the fact that he still retains his connection to Aunt May, because it shows he cares about the family and all the rest of it. If she wasn't appearing, there'd be a problem. But she's about to move out of the house.
Yeah, if she's written out of it completely, then it would be like, alarm bells ringing.
And she wants to relay a conversation she's had with the little boy who's helping her pack up about how he wants to be Spider-Man and the importance of heroes and how they inspire us. And I believe there's a hero in all of us, she says. There are points in this film where her accent slips because she's English. There's a bit where she screams and it slips. Doc Ock does at one point as well when he tells a joke in the first scene, because they're both English. I mean, I'm not sure how good their accents are anyway. I can't really comment. Alfred Molina's doesn't sound that good to me, but I'm not American. But it slips in a couple of places. But she says, I believe there's a hero in all of us.
I believe in you. In
all of us. She says it really strange, kind of like
Sean Connery.
A little bit. And I'm thinking, there isn't though, is it? That's just a homily. Some people are just bellends.
I was just sort of thinking, I keep feeling like a Whitney Houston song.
Yeah, give me one moment at time.
With the strength to carry on. And you know it's true that a hero lies in you.
So he's now convinced he wants to be Spider-Man. We are a bit all over the place here, and he goes up onto a roof and like tries to do like a web and can't, jumps or arm back and falls, and it's Uma back, which is just not funny or well played. But to cut a long story short, he is now having lunch with like her. He's still glasses on, and she's leaning in for a kiss and stuff.
You see, kiss me.
Yeah. And basically, he senses a car coming through the window and dives out the way, protecting her. And that is enough to bring his powers back. His powers are linked to her in that the first time we see him without them is after the party, I think. But it's certainly after, like, he's been upset by her, and so on. And he loses them,
See, that's the connection, isn't it?
He gets them back when she's put at risk. Because his glasses are blurry. He has to take them off. And he drops them, and I'm thinking, what are you doing that for? You might need him again. You've lost your power once. Those are quality specs.
They are.
Well, a top Hollywood actress fancied you in them, so that you must be.
So you want to keep all of those? No, you do need to go to Specsavers.
This is where we go to the big train sequence, isn't it? Now, the train sequence is too long.
It's a very long sequence.
And it finishes off with, again, just to quote that pitch meeting again, they pointed out that Spider-Man stopped the train with the power of constipation because of the look on his face. But it is very Sam Raimi, this. He sort of catches up to the train, he sort of links to it via like the webs and gets dragged along the floor, and then he runs up the side of a building and onto it. They fight on the top of it. It's not the perfect seamless effect you think it is, but it looks pretty decent, and it's got some decent camera work in it. It's not bad, this, is it?
No, it's fine. I mean, he steals a costume back from Jameson, just as like he starts to sort of like reconsider his feelings about him. He was like,
Spider-Man's gone away and it's all my fault. And then you hear like a thwishing noise. The suit's taken. Note left, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's a menace. Yeah. Spider-Man 2.1. There is a shot of Jameson in the suit. He tries it on. And he's like crouching up on his desk and things like that.
That's fun to see.
2.1 doesn't add a lot. I think there's a little bit extra around the joke in the lift about the suit riding up on the crotch and stuff.
That's a really funny scene. I totally forgot about that scene. I think I remember sort of it featuring quite heavily in sort of like trailers and teasers.
The guy in that though is like, it's kind of shot as if like that's a really big cameo, but I've never heard or seen this guy before in my life.
I recognise him. But he's appeared in as a talking head in a lot of those. It wasn't this, but you get like I Love the 90s documentaries or something, and you'll get like somebody unrelated to whatever it is they're talking about. So, for argument's sake, Johnny Vegas talking about how much he loved One Foot in the Grave or something. And it's one of those. I can't remember what, though. I'm looking for his name now. I'm struggling to find it.
Oh, Hal Sparks.
What? Sorry?
Hal Sparks is called.
Hal Sparks, yeah.
The elevator passenger. So, means something to me.
Got him. I don't recognise that name. Let's just see what he was been in. Dude, Where's My Car? I've got to go back to around the time of this, to be honest, because, again, he might have been in loads I've seen since, but I recognised him here. He was in an episode of Frasier. Well, I've seen every Frasier episode multiple times, so it could be that. He was in Dude, Where's My Car? That's probably about it in terms of things I will have seen. But yeah, actor and director, basically. But yeah, I recognised him. Joel McHale's in this as well.
Yeah, he plays bank teller.
Another one of those before he was famous, but before he was like really famous.
Yeah. So yeah, this fight. I mean, what are the key bits about this fight? Really, it ends up with him having to stop the train. Doc Ock does some damage to the train's ability to stop.
Yeah, and he kind of has to sort of slow it down by shooting his webs.
Like pulling a face.
And then pulling a constipated face. A Pierce Brosnan pain face.
The camera's on him for such a long time, and it's such an unpleasant, rubbery fucking visage he's pulling. It's like...
Fizzle.
It does look like Joaquin Phoenix if Joaquin Phoenix was a bit fucking simple and ugly. It's really irritating.
Imagine this: if you're trying to stop a speeding train, what sort of face would you pull?
Me, cool as a fucking cucumber. and then I'd be right back, and then I'd be right back to work.
And abilities and everything like that as well.
I'd go back to work, and then I wouldn't mention it to any of my colleagues because I'm quite low key about my heroics. But what makes me laugh is he faints, and they pull him into the train, and they look down at this 30-year-old man, and go, "He's just a kid." And I'm thinking, he's got a double chin. He's not just a kid. That man is in his late 20s at least. He's barely older than my son. It's like, Christ, how old were you when you started fucking? Look at him. So they're all like, we won't tell anyone because he's not wearing his mask.
But the thing about that, though, it kind of works. But it's like, oh, we won't tell anyone. Well, what are you going to tell? Like... do you know my name? Am I a famous face? No.
No. And the fact is, when you meet somebody once for a couple of seconds, if you had to describe them later on, you can't remember.
It's like, oh, well, he's like, youngish guy, brown hair.
Some phones at this time had cameras in.
Yeah.
They weren't as high resolution or as good as smartphones, obviously. But, I mean, I remember going out somewhere Christmas like 2002 and someone took a photo of me on their camera phone. And it was a tiny little shot on a tiny little screen. But it was recognisably me. Mm. So, bit dodgy, but it works. Alfred Molina basically slams them all out of the way. Because that New York thing of, like the first film, you've got to come through all of us. And he's like, fine, twats him out of the way. Picks him up and takes him to Harry.
Yeah.
Who is flat out terrible in this scene. When he pulls off the mask, because he's tied up laying on the bed, knocked out, not the bed, like a lounger type thing. Mm. Pulls the mask off him and does that hilarious over the top, slightly trying not to faint acting.
That like, no, Peter.
I don't know how this guy ever ended up rated. He's smarmy and not a very good actor.
Seth Rogen. That's pretty much short answer.
Probably. Yeah, it doesn't help that like stuff's come out about his personal life, and I tried to divorce the two, but I didn't like him anyway, so it was just like added ammunition. Then what? Does Pete wake up here? He does, doesn't he?
Yeah, he pretty much wakes instantly as soon as like he pulls the mask off.
Disappears. Yeah, wakes up, breaks off like whatever he's wrapped up in.
Yeah.
And Peter's like, "You killed my dad," and he's like, the film's going out of its way not to address this, because the natural reaction is, I didn't, but I will explain everything to you. But, and then onto it. But he doesn't even, he's just, there's bigger things happening than me and you here. And it's like, you're the author of your own downfall here, Peter. And it's not particularly good script writing.
Because he must be convinced that he did, in some way. Like, oh, well, well, technically I did because I dodged out of the way and it killed him. You know what I mean? It's like kind of...
But you tell him what happened. If you genuinely thought you were a killer, you wouldn't be carrying on as Spider-Man. So it doesn't really work. It's the film just twisting itself out of shape to avoid dealing with it. So it's where's he gone? And he finds out that he's redoing the Trillium experiment. And he's got Mary Jane tied to a post for some reason. I don't know why.
Doesn't know what else to do with her.
Well, I could understand you doing...
Again, it's another trope, isn't it? It's like a villain trope. I think we've seen it going far back as...
Yeah, but you do it...
sort of Hanna-Barbera or, Warner Brothers cartoons from sort of 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. It's kind of like...
But you do it to draw in Spider-Man. The last thing he wants here is Spider-Man to turn up. You've dumped him with Harry. Sneak off and do what you're going to do. And I've never really thought about that before. But he doesn't need Mary Jane here. Mary Jane was to draw Spider-Man in. You drew Spider-Man in.
There was going to be in one of the kind of earlier scripts of the film, there was going to be this bizarre subplot where he was like obsessed with Mary Jane, but obviously that was jettisoned, and there's going to be like a weird love triangle. But so maybe that's kind of where germs of that came from. I don't know.
Possibly, but it does annoy me that when you have like script rewrites and there's the seed of something that doesn't now exist.
I think it's a bit too many cuts.
Or the seed gets taken out, but the payoff to something that's not been set up happens. It's almost like they've decided at the last minute that he is going to take him to Harry, rather than him chasing him like the train thing wasn't originally going to happen. I don't know. It's okay, but and top is really rather wet as well. But enough of that. Because we're grown-ups. He starts the experiment again. The stakes are she's going to be killed because it went wrong once. He can't hold containment, and basically New York's going to be dragged into this thing. It becomes like a black hole for anything around it. So he sort of sneaks in, and it does start going wrong again. And then
obviously when you create basically like a mini sun on the...
Yeah. It has a gravitational pull. Yeah. What do we want to say about this? His action is not that impressive at the end of the film.
Well, no, because it's like the last film. It's used up its main set sequence, and it's just like, well, it's just them two kind of fighting. I mean, he gets knocked out, and he kind of starts to talk to Octavius, saying like, I need to speak to the man inside, and he's like, oh, Parker, brilliant but lazy. And then he sort of takes control of his own thing, and he sort of does it in a way that commits suicide, because that's what he wants to do initially, but ends up basically drowning the big sun, basically.
That's how you do it, yeah, you just drown it.
Which is handy seeing that they're actually on water.
You're right on water, and all you got to do is disable the arms underneath it.
Yeah.
Just basically unstabilize what it stood on, and it will just fall in the water, and mysteriously you'll just die. Don't know how, but he just dies. I mean, he doesn't even look weighed down by anything because it's below him. It's below him.
It would have been his arms. Would have been the arms itself.
Whatever.
But yeah.
He's like, everything's getting dragged into it before he drowns it, including like the warning he falls on Mary Jane and he holds it up. But when she first sees him without the mask on, she's like, oh my God, you can see it. She's genuinely like, Peter. And then when he's holding the wall up, he's like, you did love me, despite saying you didn't. And he's like, yes. And it's like, this film keeps having to reprise stuff because that should be the end of the arc. But in a minute, he's going to turn her down again.
Well,
I can't because I'm Spider-Man, and it's like, how many times do we have to go back and forth on this? I've never seen a guy tease a woman before.
I mean, in the film, you say, well, I can't because I'm Spider-Man, and it's like, well, she would say, well, sorry, but that's my choice.
Your being with her has not protected her in the first 2 films.
Yeah.
She's been hostage in both of those films, and you're not in a relationship, so how can it get any fucking worse if you are?
True.
So he lets her down, and she's like, well, having just declared our undying love for each other, I think I'm going to go off and marry that bloke. What a pair of bellends these two are. So he's all depressed while they're about to get married.
Meanwhile, Harry starts hearing his father's voice as the Green Goblin, which makes zero sense.
No sense whatsoever.
Because if he was hearing his dad's voice, it would be his dad, not as dad as the Green Goblin.
Yeah, if he had a mental health condition that he thought his dad was in his head, he doesn't know his dad's the Green Goblin at this stage. But he actually sees him, and it's like, okay, so that's kind of, you've almost got an alter ego, but it's not very well explained. But you've got something similar to what your dad had, but your dad had it caused by a serum. Long after you were conceived, born, and grew up, you weren't in the environment where that serum was. You didn't spend a lot of time with your dad anyway. This doesn't make any sense.
It would make a lot more sense had the reveal been he'd actually been working on the Green Goblin suit, hence explain his erratic behaviour.
Yeah, and it's kind of dropped in the third one as well, because it's just blind rage. There's no sense of voices. You don't need to have this madness angle. All you have to do is have him be bitter and angry enough and happen across his father's materials. You don't need him to hear the goblin laugh as a hint. All he'd have to do is drunkenly fall into the wrong mirror. He's been pissed 2 or 3 times in the film. Yeah. So it's not great. But then we've got a wedding. Quite an expensive wedding by the look of it.
Yeah.
And I always sort of forget that, I know it's J. Jonah Jameson's son, but I always sort of forget in the last third of the film. So I'm always surprised when he sort of stood there with his wife, who I'm also sure was in an episode of Frasier. I think she played a really annoying character called Anne.
And most people are, though, aren't they? A lot of people in Frasier.
Yeah, guess so. I don't think J.K. Simmons has been in it, but a lot of big names were.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a really annoying insurance saleswoman in it who went on a blind date with him, and I think that's her. And I've again only noticed in the last scene today when she was stood next to him. Now the bit that doesn't, they strike up "Here Comes the Bride," but here doesn't come the bride. And I'm thinking, is that how weddings work? Do they just spark up the music in the hope, on the vague guess, the bride is just
no? They wait for confirmation that the bride is actually there before they actually.
Yeah, you don't think they look at a watch and go, "She must be at the door by now. Start the music up." What made them start proceedings? And then eventually a woman, even if you saw someone running to the door, she's by herself and clearly not the bride, and holding a letter and looking pensive. Let's celebrate that with some music.
Yeah, basically the organ player was told to play the music. As soon as someone walks through that door, you start playing "I Gotcha."
And you couldn't even take him into the vestry and just explain to him.
Yeah.
You wrote a fucking note. And we're supposed to be like, yay, her and Peter.
Yeah, it's all glowing.
I know she's running and she's looking carefree, and I'm thinking, you selfish bitch. You did not need to put him in this position in the first place.
Yeah.
Because you've known since about halfway through the film you weren't that into this guy. Becca, thoughts?
It really frustrates me because every scene, the scenes that I really do struggle with, I do want their relationship to kind of take off because it's one of those sort of classic comic book love stories, really. I just kind of get every scene, like any sort of hint of chemistry they had in the first film was just completely gone. I just feel really bad for any sort of love or romance scenes in this film, because I just seem they just don't really, to me, they don't really mean anything, and just all sort of chemistry is sort of dissolved, unfortunately. And this scene, I just kind of think, and any sort of like, it's meant to be like a deeper, meaningful scene between, Peter and Mary Jane. I just kind of feel it doesn't really come to anything. I just kind of feel like, there should be so much more. They could make so much more of it. And this scene, I fear, is pretty much more of the same, unfortunately. So, yeah, I just kind of feel it falls a bit flat, sadly.
I just think the whole thing's really wrong-headed, because there's a victim here. Do you know what I mean? I just think they've gone about this all the wrong way. Do I really feel for the bloke? Not particularly, because the film hasn't done enough with him anyway. But the fact is, it's just from a sheer plot logic perspective. It's like, don't plot it like this. It makes Mary Jane look awful. It makes Peter look particularly uncaring as well. And just the pair of them just need to fucking grow up a bit. But the thing is, the film shouldn't have had him. It's been so clear since early in the film she's not that into him anyway, that to get... I'm not saying she should have married him. Obviously not. But it should never have got to this point, ever. But yeah, the only bit I do like about the scene is when she just arrives at his place and she says, I've always been waiting in your doorway. The way she actually talks to him there is actually quite nice. And we do get a go get 'em, Tiger.
And it has a little bit of it kind of reminded me of the Graduate, where she's like, obviously it ends with a bit of a yay, and he's off swinging into action, and she's left there with a kind of like a not disgruntled, but kind of.
Are you getting at the fact that at the end of The Graduate, he fights so hard to get her, they get on a bus, and then they sit there with a look of, what now?
Yeah.
There's
a hint of unsurety, which...
Yeah. It's that old Jeff Goldblum speech, we thought so hard about whether we could, we didn't think about whether we should.
Yeah.
I didn't read her look that way. I read it more like she actually looked quite tranquil. She's like, well, this is my life now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I every time I look at it, I think it looks troubled. I think it's. Okay. I think it's what it's saying is, my life's going to be. It's going to be hard now.
I just think these films would have been. How much better would these films have been had we had the two leads from the next iteration? Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield would have just nailed these films so much better.
Yeah.
But there you go. Spider-Man 2. It's talked about as one of the greatest superhero films ever made. I think that's nostalgia and time, and the fact that it might have been in 2004, but the contenders for that prize.
That is kind of where the argument comes from. Like at the time, obviously, it was quite a very low.
Well, the contenders were thin on the ground.
I feel like we've had a glut of superhero movies now that we've had the technology, and the rights and everything, and we've been able to. Marvel have been really able to hit the nail on the head and kind of make the films that the fans expect, really. But yeah, kind of as you say, kind of at that kind of point in time, we had very few of them, definitely. And I think, to this point, and sort of certainly with the X-Men movies as well, that bar was starting to be raised. So I think kind of that's where a lot of that does come from.
This is.
And there's still lots to like about this in this film, even though we kind of, plot-wise, logically, it's not that great. But yeah, there's still lots to enjoy. And indeed, there's lots that I do love about this film. But I just feel like, because of everything that you guys have said, I just really not felt like I've been able to express it, or I feel like I've been able to say it, unfortunately. But I just feel bad because there is so much good about this film, but I just kind of feel like, I just haven't. There hasn't been the opportunity, sadly. So, which is kind of quite emblematic of this, certainly this Spider-Man trilogy as a whole. There's a good film in there, but there's just so much wrong with it. It's quite flawed, and it's quite difficult for any positivity to kind of really come through. So I kind of feel like there is so much I love about this film, and so much I still want to talk about this film, but I just feel like I can't. So,
well, which bits do you like, Becca?
Oh my God, I would have been here for this whole time. You know, if I had the chance to speak about it. Oh my God, there's so much that I do enjoy about this film. Oh my God. So like the opening sequence, it's really creative, and the fact that it's one of the first times that we do see like the Marvel logo starting to change everything as well. And you see like images from the original cartoon and like the art style. I could go on for ages about the art style about this movie, just about the opening credits of this film, and like the scene, for example, where Peter goes and has dinner with Octavius as well, because I think that's the whole. I love that kind of duality between like his family and Peter's family as well. And there's so much I could talk about that, about how that kind of means in terms of like, especially in terms of American politics at the time as well. There's I could speak at length about like the relationship between Peter Parker and Mary Jane, just why it's so bad in this film. Oh my God, it really does annoy me. And there's also a lot about like her clothes and kind of what she wears and how different it is to the last film as well. There's so much I could say about like the wedding scene and how it doesn't work for me definitely, but like there's a lot I could say about the transformation scene as well. I just kind of felt there's lots wrong with it, but I just couldn't, I didn't feel I could get it out there, and so yeah. Anyway, I'm just going to scrap this film and just do my fun facts and say that I really enjoyed this film, but it is very, very flawed.
So is it kind of like it's like a really mixture of like good and bad?
Like we've shut Becca out now.
No, you haven't that at all, definitely. No, not at all. I just kind of feel like it's one of those movies where like
it's hard to nail, isn't it?
It really is, definitely, but also at the same time, like it was, this one won quite a slew of, especially in terms of like sci-fi and like technical awards as well. Film picked up, I can't even speak now because I'm so excited. Picked up quite a few awards as well, and like especially you're saying about, it's kind of like, it's like any film, it might be like the best. A lot of people say that like Goldfinger or Thunderball like might be the best Bond movie or something, for example. But yeah, there's lots wrong with it as well. It's it's the same with any movie. But I do still, even though it is very flawed, there's lots to love, and it's still like I say, it's probably the best superhero movie of 2004. But certainly in 2000s as well.
We do this occasionally though, and it is that old saying about the sum less than or more than the sum of its parts. And I started off saying I quite like this film, but it's got some flaws, and then in all the details, I've taken it to the cleaners.
It's just one of those things, isn't it? It's like when you sort of drill down to it, and you kind of like realise all like these holes and everything. So that's what you do. I think that's what kind of the analysis is about, really. If you kind of really do peel back those layers and look into it, and have a bit of fun with it as well. But at the end of the day, like despite all the criticisms that we've put to it, at the end of the day, we do still enjoy it. It's still of 1, 2, and 3, this particular trilogy, I would agree. We're all in agreement that it's probably the best of this little series here. And then we have a bit of a dip during Andrew Garfield, and then it kind of really takes off with with the new generation of Spider-Man films. Definitely, I would like to think that we're all in agreement of that for sure. But I think but next week I'm really looking forward to next week because it is so bad. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with that next week.
I think with this one, the things it did well. Well, first off, I mean, if you were to sit here at the end of 2004 and say what's the best superhero film ever, you'd be arguing about the first Superman film, one of the Batman films, maybe, and possibly X2. It's not a long list. Whereas now, when I talk about this film, everyone goes on about the train sequence. I'm sorry, I've seen that done better. It's good, but it's not that good. They humanise the villain. That's been done lots of times in different films in different ways. The inner look at Peter and his dilemmas. Well, Marvel have done that with Captain America. They did it in Civil War to some degree. A lot of the things it does well have just been very much superseded now. So you go back and look at this, and a bit like last week, it's kind of a bit basic. But again, if you trimmed maybe 15 to 20 minutes off it would be a bit stronger, because most scenes run a bit too long. Becca talked about the dinner scene or the tea scene, where they sat around, and I don't disagree, but it's too long. And I just think I don't know quite where the wild praise for this film comes from. It's pretty good. It's the strongest of the three. It's the best villain, probably the best villain Spider-Man's gone up against yet so far, I'd say, in any of them. it's still for me the worst Spider-Man. I don't like him in the role. I don't like the way they've written Peter Parker. I don't buy this love relationship. I don't think they've really got any chemistry. I think, I see him with some awkward girl at his flat and I immediately think, why isn't he with her? She's with some astronaut. I'm thinking, why is she not with him? These two do not work together. And they ladle on conversations with his aunt and conversations with his doctor and conversations with the doc, and so it goes on. It's a good film. It's a little bit baggy. It's wildly overrated, but it's got Sam Raimi's sort of stamp on it, and you can tell he really cared. He thinks he's got characters here he cares about, and it shows. So it's a good superhero film. It is a long way from a great one. That's it for me, Chris.
Yeah, it's kind of easy to sort of rip the shit out of it when you're going through it, because it's one of the things where we do the reviews, and I think it's why we'd have the opening closing comments, just to kind of like, well, okay, we've mostly sort of took the piss for it now we'll
yeah, because you can genuinely go, I really like this film, but it's got some problems. And then you go,
talk about problems,
it's funny. And you go, actually, that seems quite a problem because so-and-so.
That's what a review is, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
We have a good time with it as well. And we say, oh, look, that's a bit weird, that's a bit funny, that's a bit strange. And that's what it's all about. So
you do have to stop at the end and go, not sorry, I'm not apologising for the review, but at least to go, I don't hate this,
Actually, it's great fun. It could be like the worst film in the world, but you still enjoy it. Or it could be like
I have
Citizen
to say,
Kane or Casablanca. But actually, that's a bit crap.
If Casablanca's fucking brilliant.
Well, I'm not saying it is, but it is amazing. I do love it just a little bit.
Some of them do.
But that's a really bad example. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'll tell you, if I was writing a review of this film and it was released now, it would get 3 stars. It would get nothing more than that. It's just good. It's just good.
I would question how people. If I go onto Twitter now and ask people how they felt about Spider-Man 2, would I get
this
one of the
review
best?
will be unpopular?
I don't know. I think people are quietly just kind of gone a bit ho-hum since Marvel.
I think obviously about like Marvel how it is now, for example, they come a long way kind of since obviously.
Every time
I think about where you think.
Every time a Spider-Man film comes out, we hear, but it's not as good as Spider-Man 2.
But yeah, you're going to get released into specs as well, haven't you? So.
I have a feeling some of those opinions I've said that with nostalgia rather than have you sat and watched it recently. Yeah.
So released into specs.
Yeah. But that doesn't make it a bad film.
No, exactly. It's any sort of this in the genre still love. So.
And it was a better film.
Next week we might try and find any good points in the third film.
Context, it was a better film in 2004 than it is now. It was
one of the best films of the year.
It was a 4-star. It was never a 5-star film. I'm sorry, but it was a 4-star film in 2004. But the superhero genre has now matured. It's now matured to the degree that it's now comparatively a 3-star film. It is. For me, we're different. Next week is not.
Empire magazine gave it 4 stars review.
No, I'd go along with that at the time.
I'll see what happened for the third film. Let's try.
That's pretty standard for Empire, though.
Empire do tend to hedge their bets, but
3 stars from Chris Hewitt. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but
that's probably been revisited, though, isn't it?
But when you see a film that's not very good, sometimes you almost can't believe it, and you kind of start hedging your bets and giving it a 3 if it's not a flat out stinker. I mean, I gave Dark Phoenix a 3-star written review.
I think 3 stars is probably the best that you can do with that kind of movie.
It was a low end 3-star review. Don't get me wrong.
Is it.
But
what does he say? Yeah, still smart, still exciting, and still action packed. So this is the Spider-Man 3 review from back in the day. It's just a shame to know that after promising greatness, all Spider-Man 3 delivers is satisfaction. So that's it. Literally satisfying.
It didn't deliver that for me. I was really disappointed.
No.
Yeah. But anyway.
Dear, lots of eye rolling. But as I say, we'll have fun with it and maybe try to find some good aspects, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you think Peter Parker's a dick in this, you probably think, God knows what you think next week.
Next time round, oh dear.
Yeah. Bear in mind, he's dancing to music that in universe they can't hear.
Oh, that's true.
It's just
Not my
nuts.
singing.
And at the end, they reconcile like it's been this big split and love jar. It's just a mess. The third film, and once again she's taken hostage, and you got the Sandman just going, my daughter, my daughter, my daughter, my daughter.
Yeah, it's a bit obsessed.
They waste the Venom character. I've always liked Venom. Forget the film Venom for a minute. I mean, within the Spider-Man universe, we'll cover Venom.
I suppose that's probably that would be Spider-Man's big bad. I'm guessing, or if you to kind of cite who would his.
I think
nemesis
Venom.
be, I don't know.
I can't say for certain, but if I had to guess, and
I don't know if there are any Spider-Man super fans. Let us know.
I think Venom only came along in something like the mid '80s.
Okay, so he's fairly new then.
Through the course of his, the whole Spider-Man run, it would be Doc Ock, Green Goblin, etc. But
didn't know that.
And this is the classics, isn't it? It's
Venom is very much a fan favourite. Well, hence the only spin-off film we've had Spider-Man in total so far has been Venom. In
terms of Spider-Man in himself, he's kind of like Thanos to the Avengers, as in he's not like the main arch nemesis, but he's like the end boss. Do you know what I mean? He's almost like
I've always seen him a bit
like Venom and Carnage.
Less comedic, but a bit like Bizarro to Superman.
Mm.
Because obviously the symbiote. This is the bit that doesn't work about Venom, but we'll come to it. Venom bonds to Peter Parker first, so he takes aspects of his skill set, like being able to climb and shoot webs and that. Then he goes and sticks to some meathead bodybuilder, which Topher Grace most definitely is not, and becomes takes on what that guy's got. So he's crueler and stronger than Spider-Man, but he's still got a bloodshot weird version of the webbing and can shoot webs because he's got that from having been with Spider-Man for a while.
And knows everything about him as well. He's
and he can block his spider sense and things like that. So I'm not an expert on it. Carnage is like an offspring of his.
Looking forward to learning more about the character.
Yeah. Across the whole history, no, he wasn't. But he's a total fan favourite. And I've seen a fair amount, although not for a few years, of the 90s cartoon. And the symbiote sort of saga was the best bit. And by quite a bit. I was never as interested in any of the other villains, although Spider-Man does have a pretty good rogues gallery.
That cartoon had quite a it had lots of part
3
12
classes,
parts.
things like that. Yeah.
There was one with the mutation where he's Spider-Man started mutating, and you had all kinds of other episodes where he's bumped into other characters. There's one with Blade even.
Right. I can't have seen every episode because I don't think I've seen Blade.
It's on Disney Plus anyway, so you can always.
Oh no, I've seen 1 or 2 just for the side. I went back and had a look at the 80s one because I could remember that. I didn't watch very much of any of it, to be honest.
I think from memory, there's the Blade one is when he with is it Morbius or the other one that with Jared Leto is going to be in.
Morbius.
Morbius. I think it's one where they do something it's not something similar to that.
Okay.
But yeah, there's the episode with that. And
all his rogues galleries is good. I mean, Batman's is better, but there's not that much in it. More of the Batman ones interest me to some degree, but I mean, they're not going to run out anytime soon. And it's not a strict hierarchy as well. There's 1 or 2 that stand out, but you could almost put them on in any order, whereas there was a feeling when the original Batman films came out that they were just descending down the rogues gallery. Start with the big one, then go to the next biggest one, and so on. By about film 8, we'd have been on the Clock King or something. But, there you go. Anyway, I'm talking like I know shit, Chris.
Well, yeah, really, we know nothing, do we?
We don't know a thing. All I know is this is the sequel to 2002's Spider-Man. I'm imagining that's impressing quite a few of our listeners that I know that.
I've never seen this film once.
I saw it in a cinema, Chris. That's where they project it onto a wall. They call it a screen.
Well, I never knew that.
They call it a screen, though.
They don't
kind of inside knowledge.
Project it into your eyeballs.
No, I don't know why they don't just cut out the middleman. And the thing is, you got to drive there.
Pour it down the toilet.
Yeah, just pour it down the toilet. Cut out the middleman. You could do that with Spider-Man 3. Just flush that down the toilet, cut out the middleman.
Down the toilet, do it again.
Yeah. Anyway, so Becca, help.
Yes, I had fun trying to find facts for this film. Oh my god.
That's fun, folks.
Yeah, amazingly, this film won an Oscar for Best Visual Effects, which I find that quite hard to believe, but never mind. It's sadly only nominated for a BAFTA that same year, but sadly didn't win. But won the Saturn Award, which is a big sci-fi and technical award as well for Best Director, and the Empire Award for Best Film of the Year. And it was AFI's Film of the Year 2005, which I think is amazing. Fun fact number 2, it's the third and last Sam Raimi film to be Oscar nominated after A Simple Plan and also Spider-Man. And it's the only one to win so far, I think, which is the mind boggles.
I think A Simple Plan might be the only film of his I've not seen.
I haven't seen the film since probably when I was at college.
I haven't seen that. That's the only
so
film.
I need to see that one again. I
remember it being pretty good. I think the Gifts
it's
film
quite a good
I've
film,
not seen once.
I heard it was good. Yeah, I mean, there was a few things last week where we forgot to fill in some of the gaps, because I said when the first one was announced, I'd not heard of Tobey Maguire. He had, of course, made Pleasantville, but I didn't see Pleasantville.
Oh gosh, I've not seen that for ages. Oh my god.
I saw Pleasantville about 5 years after it came out, not at the time, but Pleasantville's a really good film.
I need to revisit that. There's a lot of if you're studying sociology, that's a really good film to watch.
Yeah. What was the other thing I forgot? Well done last week that none of us mentioned Nickelback.
Oh god, I thought you managed to avoid that.
Why would you?
Oh dear.
Christ.
Although I noticed, I don't know, it's probably just me, but like in lockdown, my local radio station had been playing that, there's a couple of songs from them a lot, and I don't just mean a lot. It's like, right, it's like finally, like, for some reason they couldn't do it, but now they're like, yes, we can play all the
television played that video all the time.
Literally, it was popular,
it was
wasn't
largely them singing on, I think they were on a New York rooftop or something.
Yeah.
It was a set, and they were singing straight to camera.
It looked very cool.
Intercut with the odd shot of the film.
Yeah. Sort of like waving their hair and
Yeah. But it was very much, I mean, obviously they're a very, very big band, very popular, but also I think they're very much like sort of flavour of the month, and they'd always kind of be associated with that.
Blood,
pretty
though.
much.
They're in on the joke now. Do you know
well,
what I think they kind of know they're in popular culture as shit.
Yeah, so they sort of play up to that and go, we don't care, we have fun with it, and they do it with like a knowing kind of glint in their eye, don't they? Really, so.
Absolutely.
Let's have a look. Yeah, fun fact number 3: Alfred Molina's apparently a big Marvel fan, obviously, and was very excited for his role. And I was. So apparently, like, the tentacles that he has, I was going to try and avoid saying this, but he gave them names, so Larry, Harry, Float, and Mo. And the sound effects was achieved by using scraping piano wires, and also sort of chains, moving chains across the floor. For fact number 4, as we already mentioned, the film features other 2 villains from the comics, John Jameson, aka Manwolf, and Kurt Connors, aka the Lizard, who we see played by Reese Ifans in the next few films coming up. And then apparently there's another. I never realised this in all of these films that I've seen. And I think about 1 hour 10, 1 hour 15, 20 in there somewhere. Sam Raimi's car, 73 Oldsmobile, is in Aunt May's driveway, and that's apparently like one of his trademarks. He always puts his cars into his films.
Which it is in every film. I never notice it.
No, I never noticed it before. I mean, I'm not a big car person, as we know. As you know from our Bond reviews, we don't know much about cars. It's a grey one, it's a white one, it's a Lotus, that's it. And that's it, that's all I have this week.
All right, folks. As we're running a bit long, so as for social media, you can find me at the Pastor Kid 1976 on Twitter.
You can find all on Twitter at Cinematronics. You can also find all the old episodes at cinematronics.co.uk, if they're not on iTunes, that is. But yeah, you can find them there.
You can follow us on Twitter at Expect Us to Talk, and you can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to rate us, review us, to like us, and share us. Thank you.
Romance us. Love us.
Yes. Romance us. And chance us and all the rest of it. There's a song there somewhere.
There is. But I my love of Tobey Maguire is about to kick into another gear as he gives a truly award-winning performance, which means Becca.
Spider sense? I think we mean stinky sense. Do you expect us to talk or return with Spider-Man 3?